They tested me at the recruiting square, called my 3 spiritual roots ordinary, and for 30 years nobody in the Profound Heaven sect learned the name So Wu. I had been a waiter, and I stayed a nobody. Then a proficiency panel opened in my eyes. A technique only has a ceiling if you stop grinding. 60 years later I finished a sword art of my own, and every blade in the world rose and bowed. The man nobody tested twice had become what swords answer to. Like the video, hit subscribe and the next part lands in your feed automatically. Easy trade. The path that led here is the part worth telling. Let me start from the first hour. Somebody at the corner table wants another bowl of wine, and I call back that it is coming right up. 3 years of carrying trays across the Seeking Flowers Tavern in Cloud Sky City, and the shopkeeper calls me the best hand he ever hired. That sentence should tell you how my transmigration went. On Blue Star I was nobody in particular, and after the sky swapped itself out from under me I turned out to be nobody in particular here too. I had ambitions when I first walked out of my own door and found a different world waiting. Reality slapped me across the face often enough that I eventually stopped offering the cheek. The world itself is not short on wonder. This is a cultivation world, and the stories they tell in the wine houses are about people who move mountains, drain seas, and climb into the sky without ever coming back down. Cloud Sky City is not one of those stories. We are a small mortal city hanging off the edge of a school's territory, and our only contact with the immortal world is the recruitment that comes once every 3 years. This year the 3 years are up. I set my tray on the counter and asked the shopkeeper what he would do if the immortals picked me. He laughs and says he would bask in my glory, obviously. Then the street outside comes apart. There is shouting from every direction at once, the same words over and over, that the immortals have come to recruit disciples, and people are already dragging their children toward the square by the wrist. I turn to look at the shopkeeper, and I do not have to say anything, because my face has already said it. He tells me to go quickly and not miss the chance, and to let his restaurant bask in a little of my glory if I get chosen. Then he adds, quieter, that he had grand ambitions in his day too, and that reality did not turn out the way he wished. He is not looking at me when he says it. He is looking at whatever version of himself used to stand where I am standing. I tell him I am leaving. I take one long look at the room, the counter, the wine jars, the man behind them who fed me for 3 years when he did not have to, and then I go. The crowd carries me to the recruiting ground of the Profound Heaven sect, and the size of it stops me cold. There are more people packed into that square than I have seen in one place since I arrived in this world. Word has gone around about the conditions, and everyone here fits them or is pretending to. First, you must be between 8 and 25 years old, and unless your talent is extraordinary, you have no chance past that. Second, you must have a spiritual root. That second one is the whole game, and nobody standing here knows yet whether they have one. Up on the stage, there is an old Taoist with a sage's face and a goatee, doing a great deal of work for his aura, flanked by 2 young disciples. The man is handsome and carries himself like he knows it, and the woman has fine features and fair skin that would make her a rare beauty in a city like ours. The old Taoist introduces himself as O Shong, an outer sect elder of the Profound Heaven sect, and says the 2 beside him are outer sect disciples who came down with him. 3 years since the last recruitment, he says. The gates are open again, the old rules stand, and anyone with a spiritual root may join. He waves a hand and 3 orbs of light bloom in the air in front of the stage. All we have to do is lay a hand on one. Everyone already knows this part. The line forms fast, and I join it with my stomach somewhere around my knees. What if I have no spiritual root, and that is the only thought I can hold? I came from Blue Star, and every person from Blue Star has at some point imagined standing on a sword in the open sky. The testing starts and the talk starts with it. One man hopes aloud that our city finally produces a few roots. Another warns that if the immortals see how barren we are, they may not come back. And a handful insists they have always been different from everyone else. The orbs stay dark. More than half the line goes through without a single one lighting, and the crowd behind me begins to shift and mutter. On the stage, the young disciple tells Elder O Som that the trip out to such a remote city looks wasted, and the woman beside him sighs and agrees. Elder O Seong answers that a spiritual root almost never appears in a remote mortal city without descendants who already carry one, but that there may be unexpected gains, and it is not over yet. It is nearly my turn, and I do not feel encouraged. Then an orb flares. Elder O Seong steps down off the stage with actual joy on his face and looks at it, and announces a water and fire dual spiritual root. He laughs and asks the young man his name, and the young man says, half shouting with excitement, that he is Ye Rim. The elder tells him 3 times over that this is good and to get behind him quickly. Ye Rim walks up with his chest out and his stride a foot longer than it was a minute ago. The crowd finally has something to make noise about. Then it is me. I step up, put my hand on the orb, and it lights. Elder O Shung comes to look and tells me it is not bad, metal, wood, and fire, a 3 spiritual root, and asks my name. I step back and cup my hands and tell him this junior is called So Wu. He says, "Good, go to the back and once the check is finished he will take me to the sect." I let out the breath I had been holding since the line formed. The testing runs out its length and finishes. 3 people in the whole of Cloud Sky City. Ye Rim with a dual spiritual root, me with a 3, and a man named Han Seok, also a 3. That is it, and that is the whole of our city. The 3 of us sit on Elder Oshang's flying boat, and he comes over to give us the lecture we obviously need before we arrive. The cultivation world is divided into 5 regions, he tells us. The southern region, the northern region, the spirit region, the western region, and the eastern region, and the eastern region, and the eastern region. The spirit region sits at the center of the world and is the strongest by a wide margin, and the other 4 are roughly even. We are in the southern region, and the southern region holds 8 super sects and 2 dynasties. They are the Profound Heaven Sect, Heavenly Martial Sect, Myriad Sword Sect, Celestial Maiden Sect, Joyful Union Sect, Heavenly Thunder Temple, Mad Blade Sect, and Spirit Sea Sect. The 2 dynasties are the Divine Wind Dynasty and the Limitless Dynasty, and beneath all of them sit tens of thousands of smaller sects. Then he gets to the part that concerns us. Everyone entering the Profound Heaven sect starts as a utility disciple, though anyone with real spiritual root talent rarely stays one for long before an elder notices them and takes them in. Once you reach the outer sect, if you perform, one of the masters of the 8 peaks may claim you. Become a peak master's personal disciple, and you have stepped straight into the sky. He says he is very optimistic about Ye Rim, whose spiritual root is quite good. Ye Rim thanks him for the high regard, and does not entirely manage to keep the delight off his face. Then Elder Osong turns to Han Seok and me, and tells us we have plenty of opportunity as well. It will simply be harder, because most people in the sect already hold 3 or 4 spiritual roots. If we want to stand out, it will come down to our own fortune. I would have liked better talent. I am here anyway, so I will make the best of it. The flying boat comes down inside the Profound Heaven sect. Elder Osong walks the 3 of us over to the elder who handles utility disciples, hands us off, and goes. Only now does any of this actually begin. Elder Huang is one of the elders of miscellaneous affairs, and he takes us through what being a utility disciple means while he walks us to the quarters. This recruitment brought in more than 1,000 disciples. Only those who reach the chi refining 3rd layer can enter the outer sect. Anyone who fails to reach it inside 3 years gets assigned to work in the cultivation market near Profound Heaven City. He calls that having somewhere to go. We can also go home if we want, he adds, though very few do, because going home means the opportunity is finished. Anything else we do not understand, we can come and ask him. Then he sorts out our accommodation, our sect uniforms, and our cultivation techniques, and lets us go. My room is neither large nor small, because Han Seok and Ye Rim came from the same place I did. The 2 of them are quartered nearby. I close the door, sit down, and take out the technique the sect handed me, a thing called the Return to Origin Art. The text calls it a basic cultivation technique that solidifies the foundation and, taken to its end, greatly increases spiritual power, letting a cultivator hold and spend far more of it. Fine. I settle in and start circulating it the way the manual describes, and time goes somewhere and eventually I complete 1 full circulation, and a panel opens in front of my eyes like a game window. It lists me out plainly, my name at the top, my age at 22, my realm sitting at none, then my aptitude, spelled out as 3 spiritual roots of metal, wood, and fire, in case I had somehow forgotten how ordinary that is. Under cultivation technique, it gives me the Return to Origin Art at 1%. Divine Ability, Magic Treasure, and 100 Arts are all blank. I look at it for a while. My cheek came after all, 1%. That is a proficiency bar, and a proficiency bar reduces this entire world to something I understand in my bones. Max it out and it is done. My roots are mediocre, I have no master and no background, and a grind has never once cared about any of that. Keep my head down, stay alive, put in the hours. So I put in the hours. I go straight back into the Return to Origin Art and do not stop. By the next day the panel reads 50%, and I catch myself grinning at it like an idiot. Another day of this and I am through the door on a technique the sect calls basic. But a day of unbroken circulation has left me genuinely hungry, and I cannot skip meals yet. Anidia only comes at Foundation Establishment unless you have an Anidia pill in your pocket, and I have neither. It is also the first excuse I have had to go out and look at the place, since I never left the room on day 1. I find the sect's dining hall and sit down, and Han Seok spots me before I spot him. He drops into the seat opposite and asks how my cultivation's going. Before I can answer, he unloads his own. He has no clue whatsoever about the Return to Origin Art, not a single thread of it, and he already asked Ye Rim, whose aptitude is the best of the 3 of us. Ye Rim has nothing either. From what he has been able to ask around, 1 week is the fastest anyone has ever gotten started on this technique. I look at him for a second. Then I tell him that is interesting, and that I have no clue either, and that following the manual has been completely useless for me. I ask him what the average is. He has that answer too, because Han Seok has clearly spent his first days here talking to every person who would stand still. 3 to 4 months, he says. So I say I see, and that it looks like the two of us are 3 or 4 months out. Lying to my friends on day 2. Low profile is going to cost me. After the meal, I pack about a week of food to take back, because I intend to sit down and grind, and on the way I stop at the technique pavilion. New disciples may pick 2 cultivation techniques, and as a utility disciple, I am limited to the first floor, which holds nothing but techniques suited to the chi refining realm. I greet the disciple minding the place, and go through the shelves slowly. I come out with 2. The first is a breath-concealing art, and I am extremely pleased with myself. A technique that stops others from reading your depth is made for a man whose entire plan is to not be looked at. Between years in an office on Blue Star and years walking into walls here, I have learned exactly how much malice the world keeps in reserve for anyone who stands out. Without the panel, I would have had no choice but to compete. With it, I only have to stay small and stay breathing, and I will still be here at the end. The second is a sword drawing technique. It has exactly 1 move in it, which is drawing the sword and cutting the man in front of you. And the further you take it, the worse that 1 move gets for him. At the perfection realm, it is supposed to be quick as lightning, quick enough that most people never get to react. 1 move, no complications, and it scales forever. It might as well have my name on it. I go back to my room and start grinding. A week later, I open the panel. The realm line has moved to chi refining first layer perfection. The return to origin art has crossed into initiated at 10%. The breath concealing art is initiated at 15%, and the sword drawing technique sits at 3%. Divine ability, magic treasure, and 100 arts are still empty, and I do not care. 2 more days and I will break into the chi refining second layer, and the reason is not talent. Outside of sleeping and eating, I have not stopped, and almost nobody can do that, because almost nobody has a bar. An ordinary disciple sits down with no clue at all and grinds at nothing for hours, until his mind wanders and his body loosens and he decides he has earned a rest. I sit down and the number goes up, every time, and that hooks me all the way through. Eventually, the food runs out, which means I have to go be a person again. I run into Ye Rim while I am wandering, and we talk for a few minutes before he decides we should collect Han Seok. The 3 of us end up at a restaurant in the cultivation market outside the sect gates, ordering a few dishes and settling in. Han Seok goes straight at Ye Rim and asks how his technique is coming, since his aptitude is the best of us. Ye Rim says he has threads of it now, and reckons 2 more weeks will see him started. Han Seok tells him it has to be him, that it is always him, and then asks me. I take a moment and say with all appropriate shame that I have nothing either and can only take it 1 step at a time. Han Seok says that is all any of us can do. Then he leans in with the good part because Han Seok always has the good part. The fastest of our whole intake is nearly through the door already. 2 geniuses with heavenly spiritual roots in the same year when a heavenly spiritual root is supposed to surface roughly once a century. Word is they will both get started within 2 days. One of them is a woman, and by every account she is as beautiful as a heavenly immortal, with disciples lining up to pursue her, some of them from the outer sect. Han Seok has not managed to lay eyes on her yet, and is visibly suffering about it. I look at his face and tell him I did not expect Brother Han to be the sort who loves a spectacle. He sighs and says that since his cultivation is going nowhere, he might as well understand the situation. Everybody laughs, and we drink, and Ye Rim shares what he has worked out about the technique. I drop a word or 2 in here and there. Whether anyone picks the words up is their business. The Tao of quiet survival is a long road, and I have only just started walking it. Afterward, we go back through the gates and I pack another week of food, and I settle my own timeline while I am at it. Around the 3-month mark, I will let it be known that I have finally gotten started on the return to origin art. Late enough to be unremarkable and early enough not to be pitied. Everything from here has to keep me exactly there. Neither too weak to be believable nor good enough to be interesting. Another week and the panel says Chi Refining Second Layer. The return to origin art is introductory at 30% and the breath concealing art is introductory at 25%, while the sword drawing technique has climbed to 23%. Divine ability, magic treasure, and 100 arts stay exactly as empty as when I started. I am satisfied enough to go looking for Han Seok and whatever gossip he has collected, and I run into him in Ye Rim on the way. Han Seok says I have arrived at the perfect moment, because they were coming to find me anyway. The 2 heavenly spiritual root geniuses have already mastered the basics and stepped into the chi refining first layer, and one of them is going to share his insights at the core disciple square today. Then he grabs my sleeve and starts pulling, because if we are late there will not be room to stand. There is room to stand for about 4 more minutes. After that the square is a wall of people, and the man on the stage is exactly who Han Seok promised. He introduces himself as Ohio Bong and thanks everyone for thinking well of him. Since so many people came to him privately for insights, He explains it seems simpler to gather everyone and say it once. The crowd roars for him. Then he talks and what he says is genuinely good, and I catch myself being a little moved. The man could have hoarded this and traded it. Instead, he is standing in the sun handing it to 1,000 strangers, and his care for his fellow disciples is not an act. Ye-rim and Han-seok both come away saying they gained something and will study it properly at home. Then, because food is the fuel of life, we go down to the market restaurant instead. Han-seok drains his cup in one pull and gets practical. Once we reach the chi refining first layer, we can take chore tasks, and chore tasks pay in spirit stones. We have none. Anything worth buying in the market is priced in spirit stones, and nobody down there looks twice at our silver scraps and gold. Ye-rim says Han-seok is right, and that he feels close to getting started himself, and that when he takes tasks and gets paid, he will front whatever we need. Neither of us stands on ceremony about it. He waves it off and says we are all from the same place, and should look out for each other. Then the room below us stirs, and I look down and see why. A young woman has walked in. That should be nothing except she is beautiful in a way that rearranges a room. Her face looks like it was lifted out of a painting, and a cold, aloof pressure comes off her that keeps every eye in the place from settling too long. Her figure is exactly as it should be, not a fraction over, not a fraction under. Han-seok makes a strangled noise and says this has to be one of the two heavenly spiritual root geniuses. Her portrait has been circulating the sect for weeks, and she is far better looking than the painting managed. She is also precisely the sort of person I intend to never be standing near. A big man crosses the floor to her and asks whether she is alone, and whether she would do him the honor of a meal so they can get to know each other. She tells him coldly that there is no need and she is fine on her own. With half the restaurant watching, he cannot climb back down without losing face, and his expression goes dark as he informs her that she will be having this meal with him today. The people nearby shrink back, because most of them are mortals and his pressure is real to them. Han-seok starts to get up. I put a hand on him and keep him in his seat. I ask him whether he honestly thinks a woman at her level needs him specifically, when there is an entire room full of men waiting for exactly this chance to perform. Nobody passes up a stage like that. And if the man he shoves happens to have a background, what then? Ye-rim gets there too and says I am right that we come from a small place with no strength and no backing, and that people like us do not stick our necks out first. Han-seok settles, a little embarrassed, and admits he was impulsive. It goes exactly the way I said it would. A flashy voice cuts in from across the floor asking what the point is of bullying a young woman. The big man asks whether he intends to stand up for her, and the newcomer announces that he, of the Wang family, certainly does. Someone at the next table recognizes him immediately as the young master of the Wang family, one of the 4 great families of the market. The troublemaker, he says, has just walked into some very bad luck. The big man is suddenly stuck. He cannot afford to offend a Wang, since he is only a mortal who got in here riding on a cousin in the outer sect. He also cannot afford to back down in front of a crowd. The woman solves it for both of them. She waves a hand, says she appreciates the good intentions but does not need help, steps forward and sends the big man across the room with a single palm. Nothing about that surprises me. He was a mortal, and she is a cultivator, and even at the chi refining first layer that gap is a wall. What surprises me is that he had the courage to start anything here at all. The market is held together by 5 foundation establishment experts, and populated almost entirely by mortals. Most of them are descendants of cultivators who never inherited a spiritual root, along with a good number of sect disciples who never managed the chi refining third layer. Down here, the first layer is enough to keep you safe from anyone. Wang Wunryong watches her put a man through the air and finds nothing left to say except that he is truly impressed and she is a heroine among women. She tells him he flatters her and asks him to step aside, and he waves both hands and gets out of the way at speed. He knows exactly who she is. The Wang family had word long ago that the Profound Heaven sect had taken in 2 of the only heavenly spiritual roots to appear in a century. He came over hoping to build a relationship that might carry his family a step higher. That door is shut. Forcing it never even reaches consideration, because he is not brainless like the man bleeding on the floor. The sect guards geniuses like her jealously, and if something happened to her in this restaurant, his own head would answer for it. There may well be someone watching from the shadows right now. And so the farce ends. Han-seok comes back to himself and says dreamily that I really do have foresight. She is so beautiful, and how wonderful would it be if he could marry her and bring her home. I tell him that if he has time for thoughts like that, he should go home, wash up and sleep, and maybe he will get to dream about it. Ye-rim tells him the same thing from the other side and asks how a good thing like that would ever fall to him. All 3 of us come apart laughing. We have eaten enough. Han-seok says we should walk a bit and then head back, because the 3 of us are going to roam the world eventually, and we have insights from Ohio Bong to study carefully first. I look at the 2 of them and agree that people like us could hardly be mere commoners. It reminds me of bragging with my friends in the old life, and it puts a small ache somewhere under my ribs. Back at the sect, the other two go off to cultivate, and I have a purchase to make first. I picked up 3 Anidia pills while we were browsing, low grade enough that a single pill only carries about a month, which is more than enough for now. They can be bought with plain gold and silver, and buying them has just about emptied every coin I saved in 3 years of carrying wine. 1 pill is all I need at the moment. The other 2 will keep. This time I am going in for a full month, because I saw a great many people at the chi refining 3rd layer down in the market, and I could not read anything above that. 3rd layer is the floor. I go home, take the pill, and shut the door. A month later, I open my eyes and open the panel. Chi refining 4th layer. The return to origin art has reached introductory at 50%, and the sword drawing technique is introductory at 43%. The breath concealing art has crossed into minor achievement at 1%, which is the line I actually cared about. Divine ability, magic treasure, and 100 arts remain blank. A month for 4 layers. Nobody in the Profound Heaven sect is moving at this speed, and if anyone finds that out, I will never have a quiet day again. That is what the breath concealing art is for, and at minor achievement it means nothing short of a foundation establishment cultivator looking closely can read my realm. A Golden Core Elder would see straight through it at a glance, but Golden Core Elders do not wander the servant quarters. Down here it is foundation establishment elders in charge, so there is no need to worry yet. I have already met the requirement to apply for the outer sect, which is precisely why I am not going to. I am supposed to be an ordinary utility disciple who has only just gotten a feel for the return to origin art, and I have to hold that position. What I need now is to go out and learn how everyone else is actually progressing before I decide anything. That means finding Han Seok, since Han Seok knows more than anyone and loves nothing better than telling it. He is not home. I try Ye Rim's place and find them both there. Ye Rim in the middle of teaching Han Seok what he has worked out. Han Seok sees me and shouts that I have finally come out, and that Ye Rim got started some time ago and has reached the chi refining 1st layer. I congratulate him. Ye Rim says the rest of us must be close, that he has only taken a step ahead, and that we should ask him anything we do not understand. Then he decides that since I am here, we are going to the restaurant for spirit food we have never had before. On him. I ask, mildly surprised, whether he has been taking sect missions. He has. While I was shut in, he took a few. At this stage, they are mostly clearing bandits out of nearby cities, usually with several disciples going together, and they earned him a handful of low-grade spirit stones. At the restaurant, we order 2 dishes of spirit food, and it is genuinely excellent. The flavor impeccable and the return of spiritual power decent, besides. Han Seok eats like a man who has found the great delicacy of the world, and says so, repeatedly. I ask Ye Rim whether bandit suppression is dangerous. Barely, he says, because the leaders top out around the chi refining 1st layer and disciples go in groups. There are also bounties on fugitives, but some of those are 2nd or 3rd layer, and nobody in our intake has a chance at them, so nobody is taking them. None of our batch has broken through to the 2nd layer yet, though the 2 heavenly spiritual roots are expected to any day, which is genuinely fast. He adds that peak masters have been arguing over those 2 already, and that the moment they hit the 4th layer they will be taken as disciples. For an Ascent Soul Monster student, that means stepping into the sky in a single stride. Being a genius must be nice. Then Han Seok leans in with his news, which he has clearly been sitting on the entire meal. In 2 months there will be a sect grand competition, and it is not only ours. The Myriad Sword sect and the Celestial Maiden sect will both send their new intakes, since the 3 sects take turns hosting and this time it falls to us. The rewards are supposed to be generous, with anything inside the top 30 paying out. He has no chance himself and says so cheerfully. Ye Rim might compete for it, and if I break through to the 1st layer in time I could at least go up and experience it. I smile and tell him Ye Rim will have no problem, but that I probably will not break through in time. Stepping onto a stage the week I reach the 1st layer would only make me a joke. Better not to go. Han Seok agrees that is true and tells Ye Rim he is our only hope. Ye Rim says he will try for the top 10, since the technique he picked from the Technique Pavilion is finally making headway. Han Seok wants to know which one. Ye Rim tells him it is a clear wind swordplay, extraordinary once properly cultivated, and that mastering it gives him a real chance at the top 10. Han Seok congratulates him in advance on his good luck. Then he mentions that the Celestial Maiden sect is full of women, and that most of them are beautiful. We will have a feast for the eyes, he says, and it would be nice if some stories happened. I look at his face and tell him that he should probably reach the chi refining 1st layer first. He asks what is wrong with liking to look at beautiful women, and points out that I am no different. We trade insights the rest of the meal and go back through the gates. I tell Ye Rim and Han Seok that I am going into seclusion for 2 months, aiming to reach the chi refining 1st layer before the grand competition. I have no intention of setting foot in that competition. It draws too many eyes. My breath concealing art is not yet strong enough to be invisible to everyone who matters, and the risk is not worth a prize. It is a perfectly good excuse to disappear and improve. Han Seok feels the pressure and decides to stop bouncing around and cultivate properly for a while, aiming at the first layer himself, and Ye Rim plans to cultivate while taking missions for the experience. I go home and eat both remaining Anidia pills. 2 months should put me in the chi refining 5th layer, and after that I strengthen the techniques. Ye Rim spends a long time at the mission hall before deciding on a fugitive bounty and filing the paperwork. The portrait and the notes give him the man's location and his cultivation, which is only the chi refining 1st layer. A fugitive at that level can threaten mortals and not much else, and the damage never amounts to much, which is exactly why the bounties are left standing. That kind of man will always exist, no matter the era, so the sect leaves them out there as practice for newcomers. Ye Rim has been drilling the yellow rank clear wind swordplay with mortal weapons, and the technique is 1 step from entry level. He wants a proper blade in his hand before he goes. He walks the market twice without finding a longsword that moves him, and the ones that do move him he cannot afford. Then he passes a street stall and sees a sword that looks wrong. It is rusted enough that nobody would bend down for it if it were lying in a road, and something about it will not let him walk away. He asks the price, finds it fair, and buys it. The stall owner says only that it is a mortal weapon and that he does not know the material. It is extremely hard, which is why it costs a little more than an ordinary blade. Ye Rim holds it and cannot shake the feeling that it is not simple at all. With that sword on his hip, he goes after the fugitive with real confidence. He reaches the man's territory and stakes it out for half a day before the fugitive surfaces, and then follows quietly. The fugitive makes him almost at once and leads him deliberately toward an empty quarter of the city. Ye Rim notices the shape of that and follows anyway, because right now he has confidence to spare. They end up in a deserted alley. The fugitive calls back over his shoulder for the little tag-along to come out, since he has been trailing him the whole way. Ye Rim stops hiding. The fugitive takes in the profound heaven sect robes and thinks wearily that it is another one of them. Then he asks aloud whether every weakling who reaches the chi refining 1st layer thinks he is impressive, and whether Ye Rim has never heard that there is always someone above him. There is always a heaven above the heaven. He mentions that the last profound heaven sect disciple who came got away by breaking both his own arms, and that Ye Rim will not be that lucky. Ye Rim tells him that in that case he will be taking revenge for that disciple. The fugitive says he talks big and asks whether he has anything behind it. Ye Rim tells him he is welcome to find out. Ye Rim draws and cuts in the same motion, and the fugitive catches the blade on his bare hand. Then the man palms the air where Ye Rim was standing, and the wall behind him opens into a hole. The fugitive names it for him, an entry-level iron blade palm, and points out that unranked swordplay is not going to trouble it. He turns and drives a palm into Ye Rim's stomach, and Ye Rim tastes metal and feels blood come to the corner of his mouth. The fugitive sneers and asks if that is all. Ye Rim is weaker than the last one, he says, and should have gone home to wash up for bed, and he need not be afraid because it will be over quickly. Then he comes in fast. Ye Rim raises the sword, sets himself into the clear wind swordplay stance, and realizes with a cold drop in his gut that there are walls on every side of him. There is no room to move, and against a man who knows how to use the walls he has already lost. The fugitive tells him he has finally noticed, and asks why else he would have led him into an alley, and calls him a weakling who cannot even read the ground he is standing on. Then the palms come one after another, and Ye Rim parries what he can and gets thrown backward anyway. He lands on the stone thinking that this may actually be it. The fugitive laughs and says he will send him on his way. Ye Rim forces himself up and pours everything he has left into a guard. Just as it starts to give, a breeze goes through the alley and a warm current pours out of the sword into every part of him. The clear wind swordplay unfolds in his mind all at once, and he understands it, the whole shape of it, the heroic sweep of the movement refined inside a clear wind. In that instant, the technique reaches entry level. He gathers the last of his chi and swings, and the blade wakes with a faint cyan light. The fugitive smiles and tells him he already explained that this is useless, that even an entry-level technique will not work in here, and that he should stop wasting his strength. Somewhere in the middle of that sentence, the expression on his face changes. By the time he understands what has happened, there is a hole through his chest. He asks how, and does not get an answer, and goes down slowly with the question still on his face. Ye Rim lets out a long breath, then folds onto the ground and lies there breathing hard. And while he is lying there, information arrives in his mind out of the sword. It is called the Azure Cloud Sword. It grows as its owner's cultivation grows. It carries a weapon spirit, though its grade is far too low for that spirit to have woken, and its true origin will stay hidden until the grade rises. Ye Rim is overjoyed and knows he has stumbled into an enormous opportunity. Even at low-grade yellow rank, the Azure Cloud Sword is far beyond anything he could have bought, and for now it is more than enough. He goes home to consolidate. Top 10 in 2 months has stopped being a hope and started being a plan. 2 months later, I opened my eyes and opened the panel. Chi refining 5th layer. The return to origin art has entered minor achievement at 2%, and the sword drawing technique has reached minor achievement at 50%. The breath concealing art has climbed all the way to major achievement at 1%. Divine ability, magic treasure, and 100 arts are still empty, and I still do not care. The breath concealing art is the part I am pleased with, because I spent most of those 2 months on it. Major achievement means that even a golden core cultivator will not read my realm unless he stops and looks hard. Everything else takes care of itself. I do not need resources, I do not need a master, and I do not need luck. I need time, and time is the one thing this world hands out for free. Let everyone else race. I will be the last man laughing, and I will do it as a little transparent nobody. The sect competition starts soon, and it would be strange not to go watch. A face in the crowd cheering. My friend is competing after all. I find Ye Rim and Han Seok, and Ye Rim looks up from his tea and asks whether I have broken through to the Chi refining 1st layer yet. I tell him I managed it 2 days ago. He congratulates me, and Han Seok says he has been pestering Ye Rim with questions constantly and thinks he is a few days out himself. Hearing that actually makes me happy, and not as part of the act, because these two are among the very few friends I have. I tell them the restaurant is on me today. Walking back after the meal, I read the aura on Ye Rim, and find he has reached the Chi refining 2nd layer, which is genuinely impressive. I ask whether he is confident about the top 10. He tells me I probably have not heard, but he broke through a while ago and has also found himself a handy weapon, so he is somewhat confident. The highest anyone has reached so far is the 2nd layer, though there are rumors of disciples about to cross into the 3rd, possibly within days, and he does not know whether to believe them, so it is not simple after all. Then he asks whether I really will not try. I wave it off and tell him I have not even mastered the technique I chose. I am not going to climb onto a stage just to sit at the very bottom, and I would only consider it if I could manage a respectable middle placing. He does not push. He says to suit myself. Han Seok says the two of us will cheer him from under the stage. Back inside the gates, with 2 days left, I go to the mission hall. It is true that I do not need cultivation resources so long as I have time, but a passerby who does absolutely nothing stops being a passerby. Do nothing long enough and someone notices the nothing. I also do need spirit stones, because the 10 low-grade spirit stones a month that come with the 1st layer will not buy anything I actually want. I register and go through the boards slowly, past all the interesting work, and settle on a task weeding and clearing pests out of the herb garden. I happen to be an expert at weeding. The reward is 1 low-grade spirit stone, and I am delighted with it. As for the bounties on fugitives, ask yourself whether a man who reached the Chi refining 1st layer last week would take 1. Ask what the difference would be between that and walking into a grave. It does not meet the standard of a passerby. Slow is the whole point. I take my hoe and go be a gardener. 2 days gone, and the 3-sect competition is finally here. The profound heaven sect has not been this loud since I arrived. Outer sect disciples have come down in numbers to watch, since they all stood where these newcomers are standing, and the memory is a fond one. And the competition does not land here every cycle. There will be outer sect elders in the stands. There may even be peak masters. Han Seok and I got here early and staked out a good spot, and he has been vibrating in it ever since. He tells me the other 2 sects will arrive any moment, especially the Celestial Maiden sect, and that just thinking about catching a glimpse of the beauties is exciting. I tell him to look at himself and try to show some restraint. He scratches at the back of his head and says it is his first 3-sect competition, then asks who I think takes the championship. He answers his own question before I can, which is standard. The last one went to a myriad sword sect disciple. This year, the Celestial Maiden sect has produced a water spirit body, a physique that is said to be better than a heavenly spiritual root, and they are carrying real confidence about 1st place. The myriad sword sect has no rumored monster this cycle, but nearly all of them are sword cultivators and their offense is a nightmare to handle. Our own sect has 2 heavenly spiritual roots. Across all 3 sects, the general opinion is that the champion comes from either the Celestial Maidens or from us. I glance at him, mildly impressed. He does understand things clearly when he wants to. I tell him that a competition comes down to real ability in the end, and ask what happens if a dark horse walks out. He allows that this is true, and then decides that either way we are here to cheer for Ye Rim and enjoy ourselves. Then a giant sword tears open the sky above the plaza. Several hundred people are standing on it, most with blades across their backs. They are young men and women with straight spines and bright faces, looking every bit like sworn swordsmen riding in to set the world right. It is the Myriad Sword Sect, and the entrance more than lives up to the name. It is also unbelievably flashy. The Elder of Miscellaneous Affairs presiding over the competition rises to welcome them and offers to take them to their seats. Their elder looks around the stands and asks whether that old ghost Lee did not come. He is told Elder Lee will be here shortly, and the other outer sect elders behind him. He says that in that case, he seems to have arrived early and leads his disciples off to wait. The elders leading these teams are all outer sect elders and all golden core, and most of them have known each other for a very long time. Some of them are even friends, in their fashion. Our own outer sect elders start filtering in. Not all of them come. The ones who do are here to shop for disciples, since the top 2 placements are never theirs to claim, but the rest of the field is full of prospects. Then Elder Li Peng arrives, spots the myriad swords section, and recognizes the man leading it. He walks straight over to say he knew it had to be him. He smelled something foul the moment he stepped outside today, and now the source is clear. Elder Wang Jun replies that Li Peng's mouth is as filthy as ever, that the stink is coming off him, and asks whether he is in a hurry to lose to the Myriad Sword sect. Li Peng says he has heard nothing about any monsters in their intake this generation. Wang Jun gives him a long, meaningful look and says that is not necessarily so, and that he will find out. Li Peng asks whether he is really that confident, and Wang Jun says of course, this year's champion is theirs. So Li Peng proposes a wager, that pot of 100-year-old monkey wine of Wang Jun's, against his own 100-year-old pineapple wine. Wang Jun takes it and tells him not to go back on his word. Li Peng tells him the same. 2 golden core elders betting their liquor on children. This place is not as solemn as the stories made it sound. Then a huge spirit boat comes down out of the sky and the plaza screams. That will be the Celestial Maiden sect. I have heard they are full of beauties. To me they are painted skeletons, because in a world like this one, what exactly would I protect anyone with? Enthusiasm. And beyond that, getting close to a woman that beautiful means inheriting her entire crowd of suitors, possibly a family marriage arrangement, and everyone attached to both. I want none of it. The spirit boat settles, and the deck comes into view, and every face below goes slack at once. They are, in fact, almost all beautiful. The woman leading them is something else again. Her features look carved on purpose by something that does not make mistakes, and calling her a fairy out of a painting undersells it. The loose sect robes do nothing to hide her figure, which is magnificent, and the effect should read as mature and worldly except that the cold, remote air she carries cuts hard against it. If the top of the scale were 100, she left the scale behind some time ago. I am not a saint. I am also not immune, and for a moment I am as gone as everyone else. So is every single person in this plaza. I pull out of it, which puts me ahead of the crowd. Then I look at the woman standing behind her, younger, and overshadowed simply by proximity. Set the elder aside, and she is a stunning beauty in her own right, and she is almost certainly the water spirit body. I turn to check on Han Seok and find him standing there with actual drool at the corner of his mouth. And then I look around and find the entire plaza wearing the same expression, so I hurriedly arrange my face to match. Elder Li Peng coughs, and the sound goes through the crowd like cold water. Everyone sobbers. He hurries over to the Celestial Maiden group and says he did not expect Peakmaster Noong to lead the team personally, and asks forgiveness for the poor welcome. Then he asks, carefully, whether she might conceal her appearance, since she has seen the state of the plaza and nobody down there has any attention left for the competition. Peakmaster Noong Man Chiung agrees. She only came out to accompany her disciple, who pestered her into it, and she has not been out in a long while and thought she would look around. He can leave them down, and she will go back to her room on the spirit boat and watch through her divine sense. Elder Li Peng takes them to the competition area. Han Seok immediately starts tugging my sleeve to tell me how beautiful the Celestial Maiden disciples are, and how wonderful it would be if he could have a story with one of them. I hit him and tell him he loves to daydream. He says a person needs some dreams. As for Peakmaster Neung, he does not even dare describe her, because describing her would only tarnish her, and seeing her at all is a great fortune. Then he points out that I was wearing the same love-struck face a moment ago. I was, briefly. The rest of it was theater. I let it go and tell him the competition is about to start. The Elder of Miscellaneous Affairs announces that since everyone has arrived, he will not waste words, and the 3-sect competition begins. Dozens of arenas rise out of the center of the plaza at once. The disciples draw their opponents, with the top 30 taking rewards from the Profound Heaven sect, and richer prizes the higher you place. The draw produces a wave of groaning from the unlucky and open delight from everyone who dodged. Then they climb up, and dozens of matches start at the same moment. Oh, Hyobong takes a stage, and the plaza turns toward him. Every sect's attention converges, and the whispering runs through the stands. Oh, Hyobong of the Profound Heaven sect, a heavenly spiritual root who broke into the chi-refining 3rd layer only days before the competition, drawn against a myriad swords disciple sitting at the 1st layer. There is no suspense in it, and everyone says so. Oh, Hyobong looks at his opponent and gives his name and his sect and asks him to please begin. The other man says he is Wang Gang, and that although he knows he is no match, he wants to see how wide the gap actually is. Oh, Hyobong tells him to come. Wang Gang plants a foot and charges, and Oh Hyobong strikes once with an open palm and a body leaves the arena. Wang Gang picks himself up, says he admires him and that he had no power to fight back at all, and Oh Hyobong cups his hands and the match is called. Around us, the other arenas keep turning over. Then Yerim climbs up against a second layer opponent, and Han Sok and I both spot him at once. I shout for him. Both of us do loud enough to be embarrassing. Reading the other man's aura, he has only recently crossed into the second layer, while Yerim crossed a while ago, so this should not be a threat. On the stage, Yerim comes to the same conclusion and decides it is a good chance to test himself. He gives his name and his sect. The other man says he is Jin Mun of the Myriad Sword Sect, and asks for guidance. Jin Mun comes in with the longsword up, and Yerim draws the Azure Cloud Sword. The thrust arrives and Yerim starts to parry and feels something off about it. And sure enough, Jin Mun takes 2 quick steps and is suddenly behind him. Yerim has been waiting for it and swings back to meet the blade. Jin Mun tells him his skills are considerable, and Yerim's eyes go dark, and it starts. He pulls the sword back and swings forward, and Jin Mun parries the first and the second cleanly enough. Then the swings come faster and faster, until there are after images hanging in the air behind them, and Jin Mun runs out of parries and finds the Azure Cloud Sword resting against his chest. He thanks Yerim for showing mercy. Han Sok is on his feet yelling that it was amazing. The rounds grind on and the field burns down to 20. Yerim is one of them. He got there against opponents who were his equal as long as he kept the clear wind sword play in reserve. He was also lucky enough never to draw a third layer, which he could not have defended. He also understands by now that nobody left is simple. The water spirit body has been ending her matches in under 3 moves to screams from the stands. Both of our heavenly spiritual roots have been finishing fast, and there is one Myriad Swords disciple whose opponents cannot block a single movement. He has not been made to draw his sword even once, and he has pulled the eyes of half the elders in the stands. Then the fight for the top 10 begins, and Yerim looks at his draw and knows he has reached the end of the road. It is the water spirit body. He has no chance and he knows it, so he decides to spend everything he has and walk off that stage without regrets. He climbs up and gives his name. She answers that she is Woon Yoyan of the Celestial Maiden Sect, and asks him to please begin. He has nothing left to hide, so he opens with the clear wind sword play. In the stands, the profound Heaven Sect elder watching nods and says the boy is a good seedling. Woon Yoyan takes one look at the erratic sword in front of her and refuses to be careless, parrying hard, and dozens of afterimages bloom in the air at tremendous speed. Yerim finds the gap in her guard he has been waiting for, and swings. She moves to block and realizes an instant too late that she has been tricked. The blade coming at her is the illusion. The real one is already inside her guard, and she has no choice but to spend something real to survive it. Her palm comes up and the water spirit palm answers, streams of water winding around her, and several palm prints hammer out at once. Yerim parries what he can and still leaves the arena. He gets up and says he is lost. She tells him that at the third layer he might have had a chance, but he is only at the second. He accepts it without argument. Top 20 is not top 10, but it is respectable, and he decides privately that the next time they meet the result will not be automatic. The match showed him exactly how wide the gap is, which is worth more than the placing. 4 are left on the stages: Woon Yoyan of the Celestial Maiden Sect, Li Il of the Myriad Swords Sect, and our own Oh Hyobong and Yu Chung-ha. All 4 are at the chi refining third layer, and the entire plaza is roaring for them. Yu Chung-ha draws Woon Yoyan, and Oh Hyobong draws Li Il, and both matches start at once. Yu Chung-ha knows going in that this will be ugly. The crowd has already picked its favorite pairing, because there is nothing an audience loves more than watching 2 beautiful women fight. She saw the water spirit palm come out against Yerim, so she knows the technique exists. She has no idea what it does at full strength, and she decides not to spend time finding out. She opens directly with the ethereal sword play, and the arena fills with something like cloud and mist, sword shadows and palm shadows breaking against each other over and over while the stands gasp. For a while they are dead even. Watching Woon Yoyan come at her without slowing, Yu Chung-ha works out that a fight like this ends on whoever has deeper reserves, and that there is nothing she can do about that. Woon Yoyan reaches the same conclusion, remembers she has another match after this one, and stops holding back. She opens the water spirit palm at minor achievement, and the water circling her expands several times over. The fight inverts in a breath. Yu Chung-ha goes from trading evenly to defending only, barely holding the line with her sword, giving ground and giving it again. She knows she has lost, and she knows why, because her ethereal sword art is still a little short of minor achievement. Woon Yoyan keeps coming until Yu Chung-ha is at the edge of the arena, and then off it. She stands up and says she lost, and that next time it may be different. Woon Yoyan tells her she will be waiting. On the spirit boat, Nyeon Manchiang watches the whole exchange and nods, then turns her attention to the other arena, where Oh Hyobong is fighting Li Il. What she sees there stops her. The Myriad Sword sect has found a genuine peerless prodigy. That boy has an innate sword body. It is a physique that stands above nearly everything else, and on the Tao of the sword it stands above everything without exception. A body like that is a peerless sword embryo from birth, comprehending swordplay at a depth ordinary people never reach. Unless he dies somewhere along the road, he will certainly stand at the peak of this realm. On the other arena, Hyobong is falling behind and knows it. Fortunately, he brought the Gale Saber technique to minor achievement only yesterday, and although he had been saving it for the final, he no longer has the luxury. He circulates it, and the long saber in his hand starts dragging gusts of wind out of the air. The elder watching is openly shocked that the boy took a technique that far. Elder Li Peng turns to Wang Jun and tells him triumphantly that he is about to lose, and not to forget the monkey wine. Wang Jun gives him that same meaningful look, and says it is not necessarily so. On the stage, Li Il decides he is done playing and stops holding back. He calls the name of it aloud, the Great River Sword Technique, and chi comes up around him in waves that coil like rivers, and the plaza erupts. Elder Li Peng stops being calm. That is the Great River Sword Technique at major achievement, and when he looks closer he finds the innate sword body underneath it, and the combination is not something Hyobong can answer. He tells Wang Jun that he hid this one deep, that he has actually found an innate sword body, and that he is going to be prosperous. Wang Jun laughs and says he only brought the boy out for the experience, and reminds him about the wine. Li Peng accepts it and says a bet is a bet and he will send it over. Hyobong watches Li Il's aura keep expanding and understands he is going to lose, and decides to lose properly. He steps in hard and charges. Water gathers in layers around Li Il's blade, and the pool beside the square empties itself into the air and wraps around him, and then he swings. Hyobong, already committed, can only throw up a guard, and the Great River Sword Technique at major achievement behind an innate sword body goes through it. He is beaten quickly and cleanly. On the flying ship, Noon Manxiang watches and thinks that this is what an innate sword body looks like, and that her yoni is not a match for him either. She is right. The final is Woon Yoyan against Li Il, and Li Il wins it comfortably. He stands on the stage at the end looking every bit as spirited as he has earned the right to look, and the plaza roars itself hoarse. The competition closes, and the sects go home. The news does not. It runs across the entire southern region within days. This one competition put an innate sword body, a water spirit body, and two heavenly spiritual roots on the same set of stages, which has not happened in hundreds of years. Even the mortal cities near the sects are trading versions of it. Ye Rim finds this afterward, and I tell him he is famous in the sect now, and that I hear Elder Li Peng means to take him as a disciple. He confirms it. Elder Li Peng came to him directly and said that the moment he reaches the chi refining third layer he can go find him. Ye Rim reckons that is a few months away at most. Han Seok is genuinely happy for him, and tells him not to forget the two of us when he makes it. Ye Rim tells him to listen to himself and to just come find him if he ever needs anything. Han Seok smiles his honest smile and says it is a deal. Then he mentions that both heavenly spiritual root disciples have already been taken by a peak master and have left the utility disciple quarters entirely. He calls it a meteoric rise and admits he is a little envious. I laugh and tell him not to think so much, since people like us do not get that treatment, and that the restaurant is on me. After the meal we go back in. Han Seok shuts himself in to push for the chi refining first layer, and Ye Rim goes off to train for the third. I go back to my own room with planning to do. My target is entering the outer sect in the second year, because that is when most disciples do it, and I want to be inside the crowd, not ahead of it. What realm I will actually be at by then, I have no idea, but right now I am a nobody looks at. The only thing that draws any attention to me at all is being Ye Rim's friend, and he will be inside the inner sect soon enough for that to stop mattering. So I cultivate, and 3 months go by. Half a year at the Profound Heaven sect, and I have reached the chi refining 7th layer. I took a few missions in that time, including a couple of fugitive bounties, though for a utility disciple those are childish, and I killed them without slowing down. The panel says the return to origin art has climbed to minor achievement at 90%, and the breath concealing art has hit perfection at 25%. The sword drawing technique has reached perfection at 1%. Divine ability, magic treasure, and 100 arts are still blank. I am, quietly, extremely satisfied. Han Seok's voice comes through the door asking whether I am in. He wants me to come along on an external mission gathering spirit medicine, because the road is boring alone, and he will split the reward. I tell him it is no problem, because we are friends. He broke into the chi refining first layer 2 months ago, and Ye Rim was accepted under Elder Li Peng a month back, and is buried in cultivation. Gathering missions stay inside Profound Heaven sect territory and are about as safe as work gets, barring genuinely unusual luck, and a man who never once leaves the sect is not behaving like a person. I am committed to being a passerby, and passerbys go outside. We set off the next morning. The task is to find a spiritual plant called red sleeve grass in the red leaf forest, which is not difficult, so I get scenery and a walk out of it as well. The forest is empty of people because there are low-level demon beasts in it, though none above the chi refining third layer. For me, that is nothing. We find the red sleeve grass after a while. 2 chi refining first layer demon beasts turn up along the way and get handled by the 2 of us together, since I am officially a first layer myself. As for why nothing higher ever appears, anything at tier 1 or tier 2 gets quietly removed, before Han Sok ever knows it was there. We finish picking and walk out of the tree line into the most cliched scene available. A carriage driver and 4 bodyguards are standing around a sedan facing down a single man. I read him at a glance, freshly into the chi refining first layer and already out here learning the family trade of robbery. Inside the sedan there is a woman with a genuinely beautiful face, and by her bearing she is a young lady from a wealthy house. That explains the robbery, and it explains why 4 mortal bodyguards are useless here. She tells the driver to hand over the money. The robber takes it, looks at her again, and gets a different idea, announcing that he has changed his mind and she is coming with him. The bodyguards close ranks and tell him their young miss is protected by a chi refining third layer expert at home, and ask whether he is certain. He thinks it over and concludes that out here in the wild, if he kills all of them, nobody will ever trace it back. Then he notices Han Seok and me coming out of the trees, reads us both as first layer, and hesitates, because he does not know what backing we might have. The woman sees us too and calls out for the young masters to save her, promising a reward when she gets home. And Han Seok is already gone. I have not finished a single word before he is out there. He looks the bandit over and tells him he has just crossed into the chi refining first layer and is already doing work this filthy. His luck ran out the moment he ran into Uncle Han, and he should stay right where he is. The bandit works out immediately that with Han Seok involved he has no chance, and tries to leave. He does not leave. Han Seok has been at the first layer for a while and has picked up real experience, and it is over quickly. I stay where I am and watch. Even if it had gone badly, I was standing right behind him, so there was never a reason for me to move. The woman steps out of the sedan and thanks him for saving her life and gives her name as Wang Ogyan. Han Seok chuckles like an idiot and tells her he is Han Seok and that the man beside him is his brother So Woo. I nod at her. She notes the profound heaven sect robes and asks whether that is what we are. Han Seok confirms it, and she tells us she is planning to join the profound heaven sect at the next recruitment. Han Seok lights up and asks whether that means he is getting a new junior sister. I look at him grinning there and kick him. He recovers and tells her that if she does not understand anything then, she can come and find him. She nods and says she will, and asks whether we would come back with her so her father can offer a reward. Han Seok waves it off, says it was a small thing, and tells her we are heading back to file our mission and will see her again at the Profound Heaven sect. She bids us farewell there. He comes back to me and asks whether he was cool just now. I look at his face and tell him absolutely, and that we are going home. After that, life becomes a rhythm, a sect mission here and there, drinks with Han Seok, and the rest of the hours poured into cultivation. 2 years go by like that. I come out of it in my room one evening and sit there feeling the weight of how fast it went. I had meant to enter the outer sect in the 2nd year, and I am half a year past that, and it does not matter at all. The panel reads differently now. My age is 24, and my realm is the Foundation Establishment stage, first layer. The Return to Origin art has reached Profound Rank Breath Concealing art at 5%, and Profound Rank Sword Drawing Technique at 4%, and Profound Rank Sword Drawing Technique at 4%. Profound Rank. Both of them were yellow rank when I picked them off the first floor of the Technique Pavilion. That is the real secret, and it took me 2 years to see it. A yellow rank technique has a ceiling. It does not have one for me. As long as I keep practicing, the proficiency keeps climbing, and when it climbs far enough, the technique itself breaks its grade and moves up. There is no minor achievement or major achievement for a technique that has passed out of yellow rank in my hands, because that entire ladder was something I broke through. Proficiency goes up, grade goes up. That is the whole rule, which means I never need to chase a higher grade technique again. The most common, most worthless manual in the world becomes a peerless art if I hold it long enough. I had been quietly planning to find something better if the chance ever came. I can stop planning that. The breath concealing art at profound rank means that even an Ascent Soul cultivator would have to stop and inspect me deliberately to find my true realm. Nobody does that to a nobody, and I have been an outstanding nobody. In 2 years I cultivated without stopping and went out on a handful of missions with Han Seok, and the 2 of us have been invisible the entire time. I saw very little of Ye Rim, since he spends his time in the outer sect, and we only gathered occasionally, and not everyone out there gets an elder for a master. Most outer sect disciples are taught by elders who specialize in lecturing at the Dao grounds, and only the outstanding or the strange get taken in personally. Last year I entered the utility disciple competition at the chi refining second layer and placed exactly in the middle. Han Seok entered too and finished a little below me. Afterward we went to a restaurant and agreed loudly that if we had not been careless we would have won. Nothing has happened to us in 2 years. Nobody has looked down on us. Nobody has shouted a challenge across a courtyard. Nobody has needed a lesson taught. Even the people who do that sort of thing do not bother seeking out passerbys. It has been the most comfortable 2 years of either of my lives. Now Han Seok and I are ready to enter the outer sect, and it is time to leave the quarters that held me for 2.5 years. Standing at the door with my things, I find I am reluctant. By my count, Han Seok should be at the chi refining third layer, since I have been feeding him pointers the whole time while officially being at the third layer myself. I go find him and he is delighted, saying he came looking for me 2 days ago but saw I was cultivating and did not want to interrupt. He tells me he has reached the third layer and that we should enter the outer sect together. Then he reminds me that 2 months ago I claimed I had broken through and wanted to consolidate first. I tell him that is right, and that coming out this time was for exactly this. In truth, I planned to go 2 months ago and then felt the foundation establishment stage coming, so I waited until I had it. Some things are worth being late for. Walking to the outer sect, we pass disciples still stuck at the first or second layer of chi refining, and none of them wear the faces they came in with. Most of them look anxious now, doing arithmetic about whether the third layer will arrive before their third year runs out. It puts a weight in my chest for a moment. Then I keep walking, and I leave that place behind. We reach the outer sect disciple district, display our cultivation, complete the paperwork, and are handed outer sect robes. From this moment, we are actually inside the gates of the profound heaven sect. Outer sect disciples can take a small courtyard from the sect or build their own. I intend to build. I want a courtyard shaped the way I want it, somewhere I can also make a few small things from my old life. The profound heaven sect is vast enough that plenty of disciples do the same. Until it is finished, we can stay in sect housing. Han Seok says he will just take sect housing permanently and pick a spot near mine. We go looking for ground, and I find it beside a lake ringed by tall mountains, with a few crooked trees at the water's edge and a maple grove further along. There are almost no dwellings nearby, and it is quiet. That is the place I will build at the foot of the mountains, by the water, next to the crooked trees. Han Seok settles for somewhere close by, and we file our choices with the elder. Then we go walking through the outer sect to learn the place and to find Ye Rim. The outer sect square is where the disciples gather thickest, and it works like a small marketplace. People trading low-grade medicinal pills they refine themselves. Clusters of others arguing over cultivation insights. It is a completely different world from the one outside the wall. The outer sect is full of standing pavilions. We ask directions to elderly Peng's grounds and go looking for Ye Rim, and when we arrive, the courtyard in front of us is genuinely enormous. 2 disciples on the gate take our purpose inside, and Ye Rim comes out fast and happy to see us. He is at the 5th level of chi refining. He has been moving. Han Seok asks him outright what realm he is at now, and when Ye Rim tells him, Han Seok sighs that this is exactly what he expects from Brother Ye. Ye Rim waves it off and says it is nothing, and that the other 2 are reportedly at the 6th level already. Then he asks whether we have chosen our residences. We tell him we have, and that Han Seok and I are close neighbors, and he says that is good, and that we can look out for each other. I tell him to come visit when he has time. He says he will, twice, and then declares that we have not gathered in far too long, and that today we are going to the old place to drink until we fall over. After the meal, I go back to my temporary quarters and start planning properly. Once a profound heaven sect disciple reaches the outer sect, there is no clock on him anymore. At the foundation establishment stage, you may pick one of the 8 peaks and become a disciple under its peak master. And whether you rise to personal disciple depends entirely on your fortune. Outstanding talent gets taken early. I have precisely no interest in that and no need for it. The other road is to go back to the utility disciple district and become an elder of miscellaneous affairs. That is where a great many people who reach foundation establishment and want nothing further end up, and breaking into the golden core along the way earns promotion to outer sect elder. Plenty of others simply leave the sect and branch out on their own. My plan is the boring one. Stay a long time, become an outer sect elder eventually, keep the courtyard by the lake, and fish when there's nothing to do. At the rate I am going, I have no idea what realm I will actually be at by then. It hardly matters, because there is a great deal of time in front of me, and time is what I do best, so I decide to broaden myself while I wait. Forging first. I still do not have a longsword worth the name, and once my cultivation climbs any further, a low-grade blade becomes useless anyway. If I forge my own, I can keep raising its grade alongside my own, and never have to buy a weapon from anyone. But the house comes before the hammer. A month later, I stand in front of a finished courtyard, and feel something I have not felt in a long time, which is the plain satisfaction of having built a thing with my hands. It sits against the mountains with the water in front of it, and it genuinely has a concept to it. I hang a swing from the crooked tree to finish it off, and I can move in tonight. There is still daylight left, so I go to the weapon forging pavilion to ask about weapons. I can hear the hammers before I reach the gate. The moment I step through, a heavily muscled man comes over and introduces himself as the senior brother of the weapon forging pavilion, and asks whether I am here to learn forging. Looking at the build on him, he is very good material for swinging a hammer. I tell him I am. He says his name is Duen Chanmu, and to follow him. He walks me to a forging table and tells me it is mine. Newcomers all start on basic iron, and he will teach me a hammer technique, and after that I can practice here and ask him anything I do not understand. He adds that if I have talent, an elder of the pavilion may take me as a disciple. I thank him, and he demonstrates the technique a few times, repeats the offer to answer questions, and leaves me to it. I take out the manual. It is called the Leaving Wind Forging Method, and it gets stronger with proficiency and understanding, because forging is a skill, and a skill is exactly the kind of thing my panel eats. So begins my life of hitting iron. A month later, my understanding has deepened into what the pavilion calls an elementary forger, and the panel confirms it. My age is 24, and my realm is the foundation establishment stage first level. The return to origin art sits at perfection at 15%, the profound rank breath concealing art at 15%, and the profound rank sword drawing technique at 14%. Divine ability and magic treasure are still empty. 100 arts is not. It now reads elementary forger, leaving wind forging method. I can forge yellow rank low grade weapons, so I have built a forging table at home, because I would rather nobody knew I could do that. 1 month of steady learning plus the panel behind it is enough. I only drop into the pavilion occasionally now. Demonstrating actual skill there would put me at the center of the room within a week, and the center of the room is the one place I refuse to stand. What I need now is materials, and while I was at the pavilion I memorized their entire materials encyclopedia. I know where every one of them comes from. Yellow rank materials can simply be bought in the cultivation market, so there is no need to go hunting, and the missions I have run over the years should cover it. I buy them and carry them home, and looking at the pile on my table I sigh, because that just about emptied my little treasury again. I can sell weapons later to make it back. For now, the first one. I lay everything out, follow the steps, and work it with the leaving wind forging method, and when the blade goes into the water the longsword is finished. I pick it up and it throws back a faint cold light, and I am very satisfied with it. My first weapon. I decide to call it Sword 9, and I cut the name into the hilt myself. I have wanted to try flying on a sword since the day I reached Foundation Establishment, and there has never been a better excuse. I step onto it and take a few laps around the house, low and careful, purely to scratch the itch. Every Blue Star kid who ever heard a cultivation story wanted this exact thing. It is better than the stories. I will do it properly outside sometime later. Before that, I go back to the Technique Pavilion, since the sword drawing technique is still the only thing I have to fight with, and I am owed 2 more selections. I spend a long time on it and come away with a lifeless sword art and a drifting dragon step, which cover attacking and running away, and I would rather have both. Then home, and back to cultivating. The higher my cultivation climbs, the longer each stretch of seclusion runs, and 4 months disappear in one sitting. I open my eyes. It has been 3 years since I arrived at the Profound Heaven sect, and that still lands somewhere soft in me. The disciples from my intake who never made the outer sect have all been placed by now. A new batch is due any day, and several people from my year have made real names for themselves, especially the 2 heavenly spiritual roots, who are known across the whole southern region at this point. I am not one of them, and I have never been happier. I cultivate when I have nothing to do, I fish on the lake, and I play chess with Han Seok. I go out drinking now and then, and I run enough sect tasks to look like a person. There is no better life available to me, and in the middle of all that carefree nothing, my cultivation has grown again. I open the proficiency panel. I am 25 now, and my realm reads Foundation Establishment Stage, 2nd layer. The Return to Origin art has held perfection and climbed to 25%. The Profound Rank Breath Concealing art sits at 23, and the Profound Rank Sword Drawing Technique at 21. The Lifeless Sword art and the Drifting Dragon Step have both reached minor achievement, at 13 and 12%. Divine Ability is still empty. Magic Treasure finally is not, because it names my yellow rank low-grade Sword 9, and 100 Arts lists me as an elementary forger of the Leaving Wind forging method. Not bad at all. Then I come back to myself and remember what day it is. The Profound Heaven sect takes in a new batch of disciples today, and the whole mountain is loud with it. Half the outer sect has gone down to watch, some hunting for beautiful new disciples in the hope that fate provides, others checking whether anything formidable came in with the crowd. I have no interest in either. I would rather sit by the water with a line in it, or set out the chessboard and wait for somebody to lose to me. Word filters back anyway. This batch is average. That is only fair. My batch was the most outstanding the sect had seen in several hundred years, and lightning does not keep striking the same recruiting square. A few days after the new disciples arrive, Han Seok turns up at my courtyard with someone I do not expect, and the moment I see who it is, I start laughing. It is the woman he saved on the road out of the Red Leaf Forest. The boy has moves after all. He asks whether I remember her, and I say that surely this is Miss Wang. He explains that he ran into her 2 days ago and has been giving her pointers on cultivation since. He also realized he had not visited me in a while, so he brought her along. It is just about time for me to eat anyway, so I wave them both in and tell them to try my fish hot pot, since the fish came out of the lake this morning. Han Seok's eyes go straight to the pot. He says I always have the best ideas, that it looks delicious, and that he will not stand on ceremony. Wang Ogyeon says her sudden visit is rather abrupt, and I tell her it is fine, that any friend of brother Han is a friend of mine, and that she should sit and eat. She does not stand on ceremony either. I look at the pair of them and smile to myself. I ask Han Seok how it tastes, and he says it is incredible, that I really do research my food, and that I certainly know how to live. So I tell him that a person's state of mind is part of cultivation too, and that eating well and sleeping well are their own kind of practice. He takes that in like scripture, and says my mindset is truly excellent, and that what I say makes sense. The two of them say their goodbyes after the meal, and I stand at my gate wondering what is going to happen between those two. I take an outer sect mission after that, since it has been a while. The road leads to the Myriad Spirit Valley, and the task is picking Myriad Spirit flowers, which are extremely beautiful. That is the entire reason I chose it. I want a few for my own courtyard. The mission is somewhat dangerous and a long way from the sect, at least for a man who is publicly at the chi refining 4th layer. The map takes me to where the Myriad Spirit flowers grow, which is beside the pools, and I find them almost immediately. Easier than expected. I decide to gather a few more before heading back, and then I notice the 3rd tier snake demon beast that has been following me through the shadows. A snake at that tier is equivalent to a human at the foundation establishment stage. If I really were a chi refining 4th layer disciple out here alone, today would have been the end of me. It knows it has been seen and stops hiding, and it comes at me like a thrown spear. I do not hesitate. One hand takes the scabbard, the other takes the hilt. Dark clouds turn over the valley and the light dies where I am standing. For a heartbeat I am standing inside lightning, and there is a sound like the sky being torn in half, and the snake's head parts from its body before it is finished lunging. I stand there for a moment, genuinely surprised at myself. Then I look past the corpse and find a gash 100 yards long carved into the rock wall behind it. So I underestimated my own strength, and I badly underestimated the sword drawing technique. One move, drawn and cut, and that is what it does now. There is no room to get arrogant about it. I am at Foundation Establishment, which in this world is very close to nothing. I go over and take the inner core, which is generally used for alchemy and carries real value, and I strip the other useful parts as well. Demon beasts above Foundation Establishment all carry a core, so this trip came with unexpected profit. More usefully, it told me where my actual ceiling sits, and I almost never get a chance to find that out. I file the mission back at the sect and go back to cultivating, and cultivation years go the way they always do. 3 years. A new batch of disciples arrives, and the stories that belong to the old batch quietly step aside to make room. My courtyard is not remotely the place it was 3 years ago. Every mission I took brought back spiritual plants and spiritual flowers, and everything left over went into the ground here. I picked up a spirit rain technique to manage it properly, and now the whole place is in bloom, and it looks less like a residence than a fairyland somebody misplaced. The chessboard at the entrance is mine as well, cut and finished by hand. A yellow rank high-grade board I named the Starry Sky Chessboard. 6 years at the Profound Heaven Sect. It does not feel like 6. I am still a passerby. Still am watched by anyone except the handful of friends who know me, and over the years the handful has grown by a few. My cultivation has reached the late stage of Foundation Establishment. On paper I am a small fry at the chi refining 6th layer, and not one person alive knows the difference. By what I have gathered, the 2 heavenly spiritual roots are at the chi refining 9th layer, and preparing to establish their foundations, which should land any day now. Ye Rim has reached the 8th layer under his master. Han Seok is at the 5th. Then Han Seok comes by, with Wang Ogyeon, which by now is not news, because he brings her here constantly and she and I have become easy with each other. But this time she is standing beside him looking shy, and he cannot keep still. I know exactly what this is the moment I see them. I ask him whether he wants me to say it out loud for the two of them, and Wang Ogyeon goes red instantly. Han Seok stands there grinning like a fool and tells me they became Dao companions a while ago, and that Ogyeon is an outer sect disciple now, and has moved into his residence. I am genuinely happy for him, and I say so, and then I ask whether he told Ye Rim. He did. He called him on the way over, and Ye Rim said he would be here shortly, so I tell them I will go put food and good wine together while we wait. Ye Rim arrives, hears the news, and adds his congratulations to mine. At the table, Han Seok gets bold and asks when the two of us plan to find matches of our own, since he has already found his. Yi Rim considers it and says that the 4 elements of cultivation are dharma, wealth, partners, and land, but that a good match is the hard one. Everything follows fate, he says, and when there is no fate, then being carefree with a few good friends over chess and wine is satisfying enough. I tell him I hold the same view, and I add the part he is too polite to say. At Foundation Establishment, we have something like 300 years of life in front of us. This road is very long and nobody needs to be in a hurry. Han Seok allows that this is true. Then he tells us Ogyeon's family heard about the Tao Companion arrangement and are holding a banquet the day after tomorrow, and that he would like us both there. Ye Rim and I look at each other. With our relationship, does he really need to ask? They arrive at my door early, and once Ye Rim gets there, we pack and go. Han Seok has spent his small savings renting 2 spirit horses out of the market, because walking would take a very long time. I could carry all 4 of us there on my sword in a fraction of the time. I am not going to, for the obvious reason. A day of travel brings us to Golden City, where Wang Ogyeon's family lives. There are a fair number of cultivators here, though mostly low-level ones who have settled in. What strikes me is the city itself, because Golden City is far more prosperous than the Cloud Sky City I spent 3 years in, and the two are not on the same scale at all. It makes sense. Cultivators bring money with them, and Cloud Sky City had none of either. I run my senses across the crowd out of habit. The highest cultivation in the whole city is a chi refining second layer. We wander a little on the way, and then we are standing at the gate of the Wang residence, which is grand enough to tell me the family carries real weight here. Han Seok picks exactly this moment to get nervous. Wang Ogyeon notices and tells him her family is very easygoing, and that it will be fine, and he loosens by perhaps a tenth. The guards see her and step forward at once to say that the family hen has been waiting a long while, and to please come in. We are barely inside before a middle-aged man comes striding at us with a smile taking up most of his face. I check him out of habit and find the chi refining 4th layer, which is genuine strength in a city like this one. Wang Ogyeon introduces Han Seok as her Tao companion, and the 2 of us as his brothers, and then names him for us as her father, Wang Rok. Han Seok looks at his future father-in-law, panics completely, and blurts out that uncle should rest assured because he will definitely treat Ogyeon well. The rest of us lose it. Ye Rim laughs and says here is a man composed every other day of his life, undone the moment he meets a father-in-law. The teasing takes most of the tension out of the courtyard. Wang Rok tells Han Seok that he has had letters from Ogyeon that mention him constantly, and feels he knows him well enough already. A daughter grown is like water spilled, he says, and he is at ease leaving her in Han Seok's hands. Han Seok promises again that he will treat her well, and Wang Rok says good, 3 times over. Then he tells us our rooms are arranged, that it is getting late, and that the banquet starts tomorrow after we have rested. The Wang household is up and working before dawn. With hours to kill before anything begins, Ye Rim and I go out to walk the streets. We do not get far before we come across a man pestering a woman in the open. Her face is familiar in a way I cannot place, and neither of us has the slightest intention of stepping into it, so we keep walking, and eventually circle back. By noon, the banquet is underway and the guests arrive in waves. Families from across the city, all of them received personally by Wang Rok. Then the room fills, and I spot someone I was not expecting. It is the man from the street, and when I look toward the head of the room, I find the woman from the street standing beside Wang Rok. That explains why her face nagged at me, because she is Wang Ogyeon's younger sister. Neither of us says a word about it, not at a friend's banquet. Once everyone has come in, Wang Rok brings Han Seok and Wang Ogyeon out and presents Han Seok to the room as his son-in-law and a disciple of the Profound Heaven sect. Han Seok thanks them all for coming, tells them to eat as much of the spirit food as they like because there is plenty, and the room cheers him. The formalities run their course. The banquet winds down, and Wang Rok goes to see the guests off at the gate. Most of them are already gone when the man from the street speaks up. He addresses Wang Rok as Uncle Wang, says their families are close, and asks leave to be bold and propose marriage to the second daughter on such a joyous day. Wang Rok tells him he may propose, and that if Sini agrees he has no objection, but that if she does not agree the matter is never to be raised again. Wang Sin steps forward and does not leave any room for interpretation. She has already told him to stop bothering her. She has no feelings for him, she will not marry him, and he should give the idea up. Li Gui turns to his father and asks him to think of something. His father asks Wang Rok whether he might help bring the 2 of them together. Wang Rok tells him to let the children settle their own affairs, and that if she does not like him, then she does not like him. Wang Xin, delighted, informs Li Gui that if he pesters her again, she will have her brother-in-law deal with him, since her brother-in-law is at the chi refining 5th layer. Then she looks straight at Han Seok and asks him to confirm it, and pulls a face at Li Gui. Han Seok has never been happier to be a chi refining 5th layer in his life. The elder Li concedes that this cannot be forced, and that his young brother should look elsewhere. Li Gui has nothing to say to that, and in the end he leaves the way people leave when the strength on the other side is plainly visible. With the small drama concluded, we get ready to head back, since none of it ever needed us. If anything, the whole business did Han Seok a favor, because it has drawn him and the Wang family a good deal closer. We fly home, farewells at the gate, and then my own quiet courtyard, and then 2 more months of cultivation. Then word goes through the sect that the Dragon Spirit secret realm will manifest in 1 month. Nobody can predict that realm. It might stay shut for centuries, or come back inside a few decades, and when it opens, it is one of the great opportunities available to anyone below Foundation Establishment. The restriction is real, because anyone past Foundation Establishment is barred from entering. Inside there are vast quantities of spirit pills and medicines, and cultivation technique legacies besides. Every time it opens, some disciple walks out of it transformed. So every sect empties its chi refining ranks into it. It is superb training and it is genuinely dangerous, and the opportunities are rich enough that the danger never once slows the stampede. I hear all of this and sigh, because I could not go if I wanted to. Not that I would. I would not take that kind of risk without a very good reason, and if something went wrong inside a secret realm, I would simply be finished. Without the proficiency panel, I would absolutely have gone in and fought for every scrap. With it, I have no need at all. I will go and stand outside and watch, and broaden my horizons for free. I go around to ask the others what they intend, and I already know the answers. Ye Rim is going, obviously. Han Seok and Wang Ojian are not, because the 2 of them have not had nearly enough of their sweet new life yet, and they will come and watch with me instead. Ye Rim means to spend the month pushing for the chi refining 9th layer, which would improve his odds inside considerably. He is right to want it. There will be no shortage of veteran disciples at the 9th layer going in. Some of them are men whose lifespan is running out, willing to spend what is left of it on one throw. People who walk in already prepared to die are not to be trifled with, and heaven only knows what they are carrying. The month goes, and on the day itself, every profound heaven sect disciple below Foundation Establishment is standing in the sect square. The noise is all one subject. Half of them are boasting about what they intend to do inside, and a good number of the rest are pale. We find each other in the crush and wait. 2 figures come down out of the sky, and one of them announces himself as Qi Riang, sect master of the Profound Heaven sect. 6 years here, and this is the first time I have laid eyes on the man. They say he is a venerable at the peak transformation stage. He tells them what they already know, that anyone below Foundation Establishment may participate, and that whatever they bring out can be exchanged for contribution points inside the sect. He knows they are excited, he says, and he knows how many of them want to show off in there. But he hopes they will act according to their actual capabilities, because the future of the Profound Heaven sect is standing in this square. Anyone who does not wish to enter may come and observe instead. Then he explains the projection stones. Every participating disciple will be issued one, and it projects what they see for the people outside, and they may switch it on or off as they please. His suggestion is to leave it on under normal circumstances. There are people with ill intentions in there, and a man who knows he is being watched from outside will weigh what he does. It will not stop anyone truly determined to do harm, and he says that too. Then he names Peak Lord Riang Mungyang as the leader of the trip and says that with her along, he rests easy. She nods at the crowd from beside him. He waves a hand and a spirit boat comes down over the square. It is not merely large, it is many times the size of the one I rode in on the day I left Cloud Sky City, and it swallows the entire square's worth of disciples without noticing. Once everyone is aboard, the Profound Heaven sect sets off. Peak Lord Riang tells us from the vow that the Dragon Spirit's secret realm is some distance away, that it will take 3 days, and that we should prepare. We find a spot along the rail, and I note aloud that this boat is genuinely fast. Han Seok is surprised the sect sent Peak Lord Riang at all, and says it shows how highly they rate this batch because she is a great expert at the late stage in Ascent Soul Realm. Ye Rim adds the piece Han Seok is missing, which is that Oh Hyobong is her disciple. Both heavenly spiritual roots are on this trip. They had intended to establish their foundations already and chose to suppress their realms so they could enter, and the 2 of them are the sect's trump cards. Han Seok takes that in and wishes Ye Rim luck, since it is a mixed bag of people inside. Ye Rim says it is fine and that he has some confidence. 3 days, and then the Dragon Spirit secret realm. Apart from the 2 great dynasties, all 8 great sects have come, and standing there watching them assemble, I can see how completely each sect has become its own creature. The Heavenly Martial Sect disciples are mostly hard-bodied men built like doors. The Mad Blade Sect all carry blades, without exception. The Joyful Union Sect wear daring clothes and look at you in a way clearly designed to take something out of you. The Heavenly Thunder Temple are almost entirely monastics. The Spirit Sea Sect is balanced, much like ours, a bit of everything. Then the elder leading the Joyful Union Sect calls across to the Celestial Maiden Sect's elder and asks why Peak Master Nuing did not come, since he made the trip specifically to see her again. He would have liked to invite her to gather at the Joyful Union sect, he says. Since he last saw her, he has been unable to eat or sleep, and his heart has not stopped racing. He is told to put his little schemes away, and asked whether he imagines Peak Master Nuong is someone a man gets to see simply because he wants to. Ryang Mungyang ends it. Since everyone has arrived, she says, there will be no more talking. She looks directly at the Joyful Union sect when she says it, and adds that she does not want to say it twice. Nobody argues. She holds the highest cultivation here by a clear margin, since the other leaders are all early stage Nascent Soul apart from the Myriad Sword sect, who brought a middle stage. In a place where strength does the talking, that settles the question of who talks. She lays out the terms. The secret realm will last 7 days, and anyone who has not come out by then stays inside until the next time it manifests. She tells them not to forget that. Then she declares the Dragon Spirit's secret realm open, and the disciples of every sect pour in. When the last of them is through, she raises a hand and a vast light screen unfolds across the sky. It is a cinema. I am standing in a cultivation world watching an enormous screen, and it is a cinema. The sect leaders hand out the projection stones, and each sect gets its own screen so its disciples and elders can watch their own people. The images come up, and the inside of the Dragon Spirit's secret realm turns out to be floating islands scattered in every direction with buildings strewed across them, which is a genuinely striking sight. Ye Rim comes through the entrance and stops for a moment, taken aback by it. Most of the disciples who entered have already banded into teams, because teams are safer. A few invite Ye Rim along. He declines, since his cultivation is enough for the moment, and goes off on his own. The first day passes without anything worth watching. Skirmishes mostly and a great deal of exploring. The disciples with real strength are not using their projection stones at all, because they can afford not to, and would rather nobody catalog their trump cards. The second day, the place wakes up. A disciple finds a profound rank low-grade longsword standing in the floor of a great hall, and a profound rank blade is a weapon even a golden core cultivator could carry. Word moves fast, and within minutes there's a crowd around it, and not one person will step forward. Half of them are afraid of a trap on the sword. The other half are afraid of what happens the instant they touch it, because everybody in that hall wants it and everybody knows it, so they stand and stare at each other. More people keep arriving, and eventually somebody's nerve breaks. A Joyful Union sect disciple steps out and announces that since nobody else is moving, the sword belongs to him. Wang Rio walks up to it slowly, takes the hilt, breathes, and pulls it out of the floor in one motion. For a second he looks as surprised as everyone else. Then he runs. He runs shouting for the Joyful Union sect disciples to lend him a hand and promising a generous reward once they are out. And he throws his movement technique into it and goes. The hall comes alive behind him with spells thrown at his back, and his own sect's disciples pile in to block. Even if none of them can hold it, they would all rather it stayed inside the sect. But it is 1 sect against 7, and the 8 great sects all have people in that hall. Yi Rim passes near enough to hear about the profound rank longsword, and does not care in the slightest. He has the Azure Cloud Sword. Put a heaven rank blade in front of him and he would still walk away, because he understands perfectly well that an innocent man becomes guilty the moment he is seen holding jade. Spirit pills and medicines are worth more to him and cost nothing to carry quietly. Behind him, Wang Rio has been run down and ringed. He is only at the Chi refining 7th layer, which is respectable among this crowd and nothing like enough, and the figures now arriving are all above him. He knows he cannot hold the sword alone. Then a voice cuts through the circle and greets him as junior brother Wang, and says it did not expect him to have come away with such a treasure. Wang Rio goes limp with relief, because this is the strongest person the Joyful Union sect has below Foundation establishment, a man who deliberately suppressed his own breakthrough for the sake of this secret realm. He does not take long to decide. He holds the longsword out to Seo Gun and says he cannot hold on to it anyway. Seo Gun asks whether he is sure, and whether there will be regrets. Wang Rio says there will not be. Seo Gun tells him that if he needs help in the future, he can come and find him, and Wang Rio thanks him. The circle immediately sorts itself. The disciples with lower cultivation peel away, and only the higher ones stay, and the highest of those are 8th layer and no match for Seo Gun. With a knot of Joyful Union sect disciples at his back besides, this has become difficult for everyone. Then the Profound Heaven sect's leading disciple tells the people beside him that he has already sent for senior brother O and senior sister Yu. Veteran 9th layer senior brothers are on the way, so nobody should be afraid. Every other sect present immediately does the same thing. Seo Gun reads the room and understands that lingering here will kill him. He tells Wang Rio to call in their own 9th layer disciples and gets ready to punch a hole through the circle and disappear. The Mad Blade sect's reinforcements arrive first. Their disciples brighten and start calling out senior brother Shonwun's name, and Seo Gun counts several 9th layers walking in and knows precisely what they came for. He asks why the Mad Blade sect, who revere the blade above all things, would want a sword. He is told they cannot use it, but they can certainly sell it and split the proceeds, since a profound rank longsword is worth more than anyone here can calculate. He is also advised to stop struggling, since the Mad Blade sect is now the strongest party on the field. Blades and swords have no eyes, and it would be such a shame if he were hurt. Seo Gun's expression goes black, and he starts stalling for time. Then the Myriad Sword sect walks in, and their people visibly perk up. And within a few minutes, most of the 9th layer disciples of every sect present have converged on that hall. Oh, Hyobong arrives with Yu Chung-ha and most of the older generation behind them. The Myriad Sword sect speaks first and tells Seo Gun that he cannot handle that sword and had better leave it to them. Before he can answer, the Mad Blade sect asks whether the Myriad Sword sect did not produce an innate sword body. So why did he not come this time? And was he too frightened of the Mad Blade sect to show his face? The Mad Blade sect finds this extremely funny. The Myriad Sword sect replies that they are not fit to carry Senior Brother Lee's shoes, and that he has already broken through to Foundation establishment. If they met him outside, they would not dare pass wind in his direction. Now the Myriad Sword sect finds it extremely funny, and the Mad Blade sect goes a very interesting color. Seo Gun refuses to back down through any of this, because his own sect has arrived in force, and he does not fear the rest of them much. Then Woon Yoyan of the Celestial Maiden sect walks in, and every expression in the hall goes heavy at once. A water spirit body is not something anyone jokes about. Seo Gun does the arithmetic and knows the Joyful Union sect cannot take that sword alone, so he changes the shape of the problem. He calls out to the Mad Blade sect, the Heavenly Thunder Temple, and the Heavenly Martial sect, and points out that a sword is not much use to any of them. Then he proposes they join forces, trade it for resources afterward, and split the take evenly. They look at each other and conclude that this is better than losing outright. Watching that, the Myriad Sword sect turns to the Profound Heaven sect and the Celestial Maiden sect and says there is no need for speeches. Their 3 sects have always been on good terms. Why not treat the sword as the prize for the next 3-sect competition and let it come down to individual ability and simply secure it for now? Both agree readily. The Spirit Sea sect withdraws from contention entirely and steps back. Seo Gun laughs and asks what 4 are going to use to fight 3. Outside, I watch the whole hall dissolve into wind and smoke and reflect on how deeply satisfying it is to be a bystander. I also cannot find Ye Rim anywhere on that screen, and I have no idea where the kid is gone. Woon Yoyan and Oh Hyobong and the other aces go straight through the front rank. Anyone below the 9th layer is finished in a single exchange, and inside a few minutes the only people still standing are the 9th layer disciples of each sect. Most of them look terrible. The handful at the very top are barely marked. Oh Hyobong calls across to Woon Yoyan and the Myriad Sword sect and tells them to stop holding back. Time inside the secret realm waits for nobody, and there are other opportunities getting away from all of them. Meanwhile, Ye Rim has found a hidden cave, and inside it there is a pool, and on the stone beside the pool 3 words are cut: Sword Nurturing Pool. He has no idea what it does. He can guess from the name that it does something for swords, and it seems a perfect moment to find out, so he lowers the Azure Cloud Sword into the water. The blade gives off a faint light and sinks quietly to the bottom. Back at the hall, everyone has spent everything. 9th layer disciples are dropping out injured one after another until only the elite aces of each sect are left on their feet. Then Woon Yoyan stops holding back. Water gathers around her in volume, and standing at the center of it, she stops looking like a disciple and starts looking like something the water made. Every face in that hall turns ugly, because that is a profound rank cultivation technique at minor achievement, and they brace against it together. Yu Chung-ha is as surprised as anyone. She carries a profound rank technique herself, and has only taken it to entry level, which is a long way short of minor achievement. She and Oh Hyobong exchange a look and a nod and bring out their own. Entry level is all either of them has, and against everyone who is not Woon Yoyan, it is more than enough. Almost nobody holds a profound rank cultivation technique during the chi refining stage at all, let alone one taken to entry level. Seeing 3 of them light up, a Mad Blade sect disciple announces that they are not the only ones with a profound rank technique, and saber chi comes boiling off him. Oh Hyobong measures it at a glance and puts it at entry level and stops worrying. The aces of the Heavenly Martial sect and the Heavenly Thunder Temple bring theirs out as well, and all of them are entry level too. The auras grind against each other across that hall, and the Joyful Union sect comes out slightly the weaker, because not one of them has a profound rank technique to step forward with. It goes quiet. Both sides stand there with everything drawn and nobody moving. Things are considerably calmer on Ye Rim's side, where he is sitting beside a pool waiting for his sword to finish soaking. Woon Yoyan moves first. The Heavenly Martial sect disciples go up to meet her, and the gap is simply too wide, and they last a few exchanges. Oh Hyobong and Yu Chung-ha take longer with their own opponents, and only hold the advantage. But once Woon Yoyan comes across to help, the other side collapses entirely. Oh, Hyobong looks at Seo-gun and tells him there is nothing left to struggle for. Hand the sword over. He surely does not want to be injured first and have it taken from him anyway. And Oh Hyobong believes he is clear-headed enough to understand that. Seo-gun's face is not pleasant. He stands, throws the longsword to Oh Hyobong, and turns to leave without another word. The other sects do the same, because they lost, and staying to be looked at only costs them more. And as every single one of them is walking away, formation flags come whistling through the air. They scatter, plant themselves in a ring around the whole group, and a grand array closes over the top of them. Oh Hyobong looks up and knows immediately that this is very bad. Outside the barrier, the disciples of the Spirit Sea sect are standing in a row, and UK is looking at nearly every capable competitor from every sect, sealed in one place. He tells them it is a textbook case of the snipe and the clam fighting while the fisherman collects them both. Did they truly think the Spirit Sea sect withdrew from the contest without a word for no reason? They were waiting for exactly this. It would have been difficult if everyone had stayed at peace, but that is not the situation now, because most of them are injured or have burned through their mana. Furthermore, this grand array was laid by several older generation 9th layer disciples who specialize in formations. In peak condition, it would have cost them real effort. In their current state, it is simply not happening. He adds one detail almost kindly. The grand array will dissolve when the secret realm is nearly finished, because the Spirit Sea sect does not dare leave them trapped inside past the end. They would not be able to leave either. Seo-gun asks whether the Spirit Sea sect wants the longsword too. UK looks at him with open contempt and says he is not here for a sword. As long as they are all sitting in that box, every treasure in the Dragon Spirit secret realm belongs to the Spirit Sea sect. Without them, he asks, what exactly are the remaining disciples going to compete with? Outside, the Spirit Sea sect section erupts. The disciples are shouting that it had to be Senior Brother Yuke, that the Spirit Sea sect is about to prosper, and asking what is left for anyone else to fight over. Every other sect section boos them, calling it shameless to trap other people's senior brothers and then stand there arguing about it. Riang Mengyoung cuts through all of it. She asks what there is to argue about. The world of cultivation is like this, she says, and it is full of variables, and if this is where they have ended up, they can blame nothing but their own inferior skill. Then she adds the part that lands hardest. This is a good lesson, and if it had been a grand array of the demon race that closed over them, being trapped would have been the smallest of their problems. The other elders feel the same. They are not happy about it, and reality is reality. Every one of them is cultivated long enough to have climbed from somewhere to somewhere, and they all understand that nothing in this world arrives without a price. Since Riang Mengyoung has spoken, there is nothing more to say. I watch that array sitting there and make a note. I need to study formations the moment I get home. It is a genuinely timely reminder. All my strength is in a sword and a hidden realm and a proficiency bar, and none of the three does a thing against a box I cannot open. Being untouchable is not the same as being unshuttable. Beside me, Han Sok is anxious and says this is not good. Wang Ogyan says it is fortunate that young Master Ye is not in there. Han Sok agrees and hopes he is getting something out of it, since we have not seen him on any screen all day. I laugh and tell them the kid has clearly run into something good, or he would have shown his face by now. Inside the array, everyone is furious. Somebody demands to know whether the Spirit Sea sect dares to let them out and tells them to stop playing petty tricks. UK advises them not to waste the energy and to rest well so they can walk out later, and then laughs and leaves with his sect behind him. Oh Hyobong stands there looking helpless. He walked directly into the Spirit Sea sect's trap, and he never saw it coming. Woon Yoyon is the one who moves them. She points up at the grand array and says that since everyone is trapped there is nothing left to say, and that trying to break it beats sitting still and waiting to die. They are all grasshoppers on one string now, so there is no point dwelling on who was fighting whom an hour ago. Join forces and find out whether it can be broken. They get up one after another and start circulating their spiritual power. Oh, Hyobong tells them to put everything into one point of the array and see what happens. One combined strike, and the barrier ripples like water and does nothing else. They try several more times with the same result. So they stop, and each sect sends word to whichever of their disciples has any accomplishment in formations. There is nothing else available to them, and in the meantime, the Spirit Sea sect strips the secret realm at their leisure. In the cave, the Azure Cloud Sword finishes. It rises out of the water on its own, and hangs in the air throwing light off every surface, and the drab rusted blade Ye-Rim bought off a street stall is gone. What floats there now runs with flowing light and a cold gleam sharp enough to hurt the eyes, and Ye-Rim can feel the connection between them far more clearly than before. Then a human-shaped shadow of light forms in front of him, and he nearly comes out of his skin. He works out what it is almost immediately. This is the Azure Cloud Sword's sword spirit, and the nurturing has woken it, which is a delight he was not expecting at all. What he was also not expecting is that the sword spirit has the appearance of a child. It looks him over and remarks that it did not expect a greenhorn like him to end up with the Azure Cloud Sword. Then it says that if it is not mistaken, this is the Dragon Spirit secret realm. It did not expect the place to still exist, and it certainly did not expect him to stumble onto something like the sword nurturing pool. Without that pool, there is no telling how long it would have been before it could appear at all. Ye Rim says he was simply lucky, and asks whether all sword spirits look like this. Certainly not. It tells him, sword spirits can take many forms, and it has taken one he happens to be able to comprehend. It has also only recovered a little, so a young form is all it can hold, and it cannot stay out all the time. Ye Rim asks how he should address it. Just call me Chongryong, it says. Or Brother Ryong, if he likes, and perhaps then it might guide him. Ye Rim answers that a real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall, and asks how he could possibly call him brother so casually. Brother Ryong, he says, your judgment of people is truly accurate, and he would be grateful for guidance, and there will certainly be things he does not understand and will need to ask about. Cheongryong was visibly caught off guard by how fast that happened. Then, since Ye Rim is giving him so much face, he says he will mention another opportunity. Does Ye Rim see the grass growing beside the pool? It is not simple. It is called sword-nurturing grass. Given enough time to grow, Cheongryong explains, that grass will turn an ordinary pond into a sword-nurturing pool. Consumed directly, it temporarily sharpens a cultivator's insight into the Tao of the sword. A sword-nurturing pool counts as a rare spiritual pond in its own right, and to simply walk into one is absurd luck. He adds that he had only ever heard the Dragon Spirit secret realm contained a dragon transformation pool. For a cultivator who does not walk the Tao of the sword, the dragon transformation pool is far more valuable, since that is a pond for refining one's physique. For a sword cultivator, this is the greater opportunity by a wide margin. Ye Rim can collect the grass, or eat some now and get stronger immediately. Ye Rim is shaken by how much use is sitting in a patch of weeds, and decides to eat some first. He picks a handful and swallows it, and the profound rank cultivation technique his master handed down suddenly feels simple. A sword technique that should have cost him a great deal of time now feels like something he could master in a few repetitions. So he circulates and practices it exactly as the sword formula describes. A few passes in, clarity goes through his whole body, and wisps of sword chi turn in the air around him. When he opens his eyes, he has mastered the profound rank cultivation technique, and his cultivation has broken through to the chi refining 9th layer. He did not come in here expecting either of those, let alone both. Then he looks at the rest of the patch and decides, reasonably, to take all of it. He leaves the ground beside the sword nurturing pool bare except for a few seedlings, and he is quite satisfied with himself. Chongryong goes back into the sword. Only then does Ye Rim notice the message sitting on his sound transmission stone, and only then does he learn that the sect's disciples are sealed inside a formation, so he goes to look. He reaches the hall where they were all fighting over the longsword, and finds a massive light barrier with most of the southern region's best young cultivators inside it. Oh, Hyobong is in there, and a longsword is in his hand, so they won it and then lost everything else. With the entire main combat force boxed up, the last day of resource contention is going to be ugly. Cheongryong observes that being trapped by such a small formation makes them all fairly useless. Ye Rim tells him that is easy to say when the problem is that none of them understand formations at all, and asks whether he happens to know how to break this kind. Of course he knows. For a formation like this, you find the eye and break it there. But this one has a small trick in it, because it has two eyes. One is false and exists purely to mislead, and the other is real, and breaking it requires striking both at the same moment. Those people crouched over it at the edge have already found the false eye and tried it and failed. It will take them a long while to find the real one. At their current rate, they will work out how to break it right around the time the secret realm ends, which means whoever built it was clever. Ye Rim thinks about that, then asks whether they should help. That, Chongryong says, is up to him, so Ye Rim wanders over to the Profound Heaven sect disciples studying the array and asks whether they have any clues. They look up, recognize him at once because Ye Rim has a name in the sect by now, and tell him they fed on the eye of the formation and it did not work. He makes a show of thinking it over. Then he wonders aloud whether that one might be false, and suggests that if they were to find the real one and strike them both at the same time, they might break the grand array. They start arguing about it immediately. He watches a while, drops one more small piece of advice, and walks away. That is as much as he can do. Whether they believe him is their business, and breaking the array himself in front of several hundred people from 8 sects would not necessarily be a good outcome for him. He is not a wide-eyed novice anymore. Not long after he leaves, they find the real eye. Then they hit it, and it still does not work, and they start worrying that this one is false too. And then somebody remembers what Ye Rim said, and since there is nothing to lose, they try it his way. They strike both eyes at once, and the grand array peels open. Everyone comes out beaming. A number of disciples from various sects immediately start talking about going to settle accounts with the Spirit Sea sect. since being penned up costs them most of a day. Oh, Hyobong tells them to forget it. There is very little time left and it is the last day, so they should go find resources instead of spending what remains on revenge, because revenge keeps. And so that farce ends. The last day is worse than the days before it. The competition inside the dragon spirit's secret realm turns vicious, and a great many disciples die in it. There is no shortage of people who will do anything at all for resources, and do not care who watches. While everyone else is tearing at each other for the leftovers, one joyful Union sect disciple drags a badly injured body into a ruined great hall. The moment he crosses the threshold, his whole body shakes and every hair on him stands up. Something is deeply wrong in that room and he can feel it. Then he sees a treasure box sitting in the middle of the floor, decides there might be something good inside it, and pushes the fear down and walks to it. Standing over the box, an impulse takes hold of him that is stronger than he is, and Gangsong opens it. Cold rushes up through the crown of his head, and he does not dare move. When his eyes finally travel down into the box, there is a bead inside, and words cut into the lid. Yin-Yang Pearl. It is the supreme treasure of the Yin-Yang demon race of the demon realm. What it does is let its holder use dual cultivation to strip cultivation and aptitude out of other people and take it into himself. Gangsong starts laughing and tells the empty hall that the heavens have blessed him. With a supreme treasure like this, he will dominate the cultivation world. And that bunch from the Celestial Maiden sect can wait, because he is going to make them pay, and he is going to make them want to die without being able to. He is the man the Celestial Maiden sect threw off a cliff. He had taken a fancy to one of their disciples and played some very ugly tricks on her, and her sect sisters arrived in time, put him down together and threw him over the edge. The heavens did not abandon him after all, and the Yin-Yang Pearl covers the one hole in him he could never fill, which is his own poor aptitude. It is worth being clear about the Joyful Union sect here, because they are not that kind of sect. What they cultivate are dual cultivation techniques that benefit both parties, which suits people whose aptitude is slightly inferior, and the sect promotes that culture openly. The result is a great many disciples with disorderly private lives, and a great many wives, concubines, and Tao companions between them. That is the entire extent of it. The other sects dislike them for it, and they remain a righteous path sect. If the Joyful Union sect could actually strip cultivation and aptitude out of people, no sect in the southern region would have let them keep existing. An ability like that makes a demonic sect, and no demonic sect with that ability has ever been recorded. Gangsong picks up the Yin-Yang Pearl, and it turns into a beam of light and pours into his body. What he does not notice is the black light that goes in with it. Somewhere across the secret realm, Ye Rim is still hunting resources when Chung Ryong speaks up without warning and says there was a trace of devilish chi just now, and that it vanished in an instant. Yi Rim does not know what to do with that. The demon race has not appeared in the southern region in something like 1,000 years. Cheung Ryong sounds uncertain of himself, wondering aloud whether he sensed it wrong, then deciding he did not. This dragon spirit secret realm has existed for a very long time, he says, and even he is not clear on where it came from. Better to be careful. Ye Rim searches carefully after that, and then the 7 days run out. He is content to leave. He is carrying a great many medicinal pills, spirit medicines, and spirit plants. Beyond that, he walked into the sword nurturing pool and woke a sword spirit. He also ate his way to the chi refining 9th layer and emptied a patch of sword nurturing grass into his storage. The exit opens and he flies out of the dragon spirit secret realm, and disciples come pouring out behind him from every sect. He finds us in the crowd, and I take one look at his face and tell him it seems Brother Ye has had some gains. He says that is right, and that he will share some later. Then the exit closes. Whoever has not come out is either dead in there or sealed in there, and between those two there is not a great deal of difference. Each sect gathers its own and goes home. On the spirit boat, Ohio Bong hands the longsword to Riang Mungyang and tells his master he has brought shame on her, since he never expected to end the trip inside a grand array. He adds that he has already agreed with the Myriad Sword sect to put the sword up as the prize for the next grand competition. She tells him it is fine and to treat the whole thing as a lesson he had better learn from. If the people who trapped him had meant real harm, being trapped would have been the smallest part of it. Back at the sect, the secret realm is all anyone discusses for weeks, and the Spirit Sea sect comes out of it more famous than anyone. Trapping the best disciples of 7 sects in one box is not a thing people forget quickly. Ye Rim comes to my courtyard and lays out spirit pills and medicines from the secret realm, and splits them between us. Then he produces a few stalks of ordinary-looking grass and tells us it is an incredible treasure for a sword cultivator. It briefly sharpens your insight into the Tao of the sword, and if it is planted beside a pool and left long enough, it will turn that pool into a sword nurturing pool. That takes a very long time, he says, which is why almost everyone simply eats it. Han Seok looks at his share and says he has no use for it, being no sword cultivator, and that Brother So and Ojion should take it. Yi Rim hands a few stalks around, and then everyone drifts home. On the way back, Chongryong speaks in Ye-rim's mind and asks whether his friend named So Woo is capable because he feels the man is not simple and yet cannot discern anything at all. He has not recovered much. With a little more of himself back, he might have seen something. Ye-rim tells him brother So has no special abilities, though his cultivation is decent enough at the 6th level of chi refining, and that he entered the sect alongside him and would obviously know. Chongryong lets it go and allows that he was probably overthinking it. I did not hear a word of that conversation, which is fortunate because a sword spirit older than the southern region's memory took one look at me and felt something. At home, I turn the sword nurturing grass over in my hand and decide to plant it. There is a small pool in my courtyard and it can go straight in beside it. I do not need the resource, and I especially do not need anything that enhances insight, because I have a proficiency panel, and insight is the one thing I am never short of. Using it as landscaping is a far better return. Then I go and get myself a book on formations, because that grand array has been sitting in the back of my head since the day it closed. More skills are never a burden, and with the panel I do not have to worry about whether I can learn a thing. I come home with the complete collection of basic formations and shut the door. And cultivation time does what cultivation time does. 10 years. I open my eyes and find I have reached the late stage golden core, which genuinely startles me, because I had assumed that was still years off. Nearly 20 years in this world now. It goes faster every time I check. I open the proficiency panel. I am 40, and my realm is late stage golden core, on the same 3 spiritual roots of metal, wood, and fire I have always had. The return to origin art sits at 20% of whatever comes after perfection. The breath-concealing art and the sword-drawing technique have both climbed into Earth rank, at 30 and 20%. The lifeless sword art has followed them into Earth rank at 2%, while the drifting dragon step holds profound rank at 90. Divine ability is still blank, which no longer bothers me. Magic treasure is a list now. A profound rank high-grade sword 9, a profound rank high-grade starry sky chessboard, and a profound rank high-grade wine immortal gourd. Under 100 arts, I am an advanced forger of the leaving wind forging method, an advanced gardener running the spirit rain technique and the growth promotion technique, and a 3rd tier formation master. And there is a line on the panel that was never there before. Concept, it says, sword intent at the 3rd level. I comprehended sword intent back at the 9th layer of foundation establishment, and I was insufferable about it for a good while, privately, where nobody could see. My attainment in the Tao of the Sword is now higher than most of the elders of the Profound Heaven sect. Sword intent is the thing sword cultivators chase for an entire lifetime, and there are cultivators who reach the Nascent Soul Realm without ever touching it. I grind a chessboard and a wine gourd to profound rank high grade, while the real prodigies of the southern region fight over one sword. A great deal has happened in 10 years. Han Seok and Wan Ogyeon both broke through to Foundation establishment and took an outer sect elder with a real name as their master. They did not aim at a peak master because they know their aptitude and know there was never a chance of being taken as personal disciples. Studying under a Golden Core outer sect elder is a good outcome, and it means there is always someone to ask. The Golden Core stage is a wall. A great many people spend the rest of their lives stuck at the 9th layer of Foundation establishment, so having a Golden Core master makes the road noticeably shorter. On paper, I have reached the 2nd level of Foundation establishment, and I do not intend to take a master at all. There are plenty of Foundation establishment disciples loitering in the outer sect, and nobody counts them. In a few years, I will apply to become an elder of miscellaneous affairs. Outer sect elder can wait until the timing suits me, because that position will make my own work far more convenient later. I walk out into the courtyard and look at the small pool. The sword-nurturing grass I planted has grown, helped along by 10 years of me quietly running the growth promotion technique over it. It is still a very long way from turning that pool into anything. That is fine. I have the time. Then Hanso comes to my gate and says they are going back to Cloud Sky City, and asks whether I will come. He says it may be the last time he goes back to see his parents. Immortals and mortals are different creatures, and as cultivation deepens, each seclusion runs longer. In the cultivation world, you can shut a door for 12 years or 100, and come out to find nothing much has changed. The mortal world does not work that way. If they do not go now, there may not be another chance. I lower my head at that, and think about it properly. He is right, and more time has gone by than I let myself count. I have no family here and no ties, but I do not know how the shopkeeper is doing, and that man fed me and kept me when I was nobody with nothing. I tell Han Seok I will come, and that I wonder how Cloud Sky City has grown. They are all at my place the next morning, and since every one of us has reached Foundation establishment, there is no more renting horses. 4 streaks of light lift out of my courtyard, 4 people standing on their own swords. I look at the longsword under Ye-rim's feet and find it interesting, because I am an advanced forger now and I can read a blade the way other people read handwriting. On the surface, it presents as a profound rank weapon. Underneath that, there is something else I cannot name. Ye Rim's reputation has grown enormously over these 10 years, to the point where it faintly overshadows the two heavenly spiritual root geniuses. He is a real celebrity inside the Profound Heavens sect, and a known name across the southern region. I am flying on a yellow rank longsword I knocked together in an afternoon. Sword 9 stays home. A profound rank high-grade blade under the feet of a Foundation establishment. Nobody would end my entire arrangement in one afternoon, so the decoy gets the daylight and the real thing gets the workshop. Of the four of us, I have spent by far the most time with Han Seok and Wang Ogian. Ye Rim's cultivation kept climbing, and our meetings kept thinning, and he is at the 7th level of Foundation establishment now, and rarely even at the sect. The bond between the four of us has not moved an inch. Han Seok and Wang Ogian are relaxed about cultivation in a way that would horrify an elder, because the two of them would rather enjoy their lives. As far as anyone else can see, I am exactly the same, only more so. We fly a long time, and then we are over Cloud Sky City's territory and we come down out of the air, because none of us wants to arrive like a spectacle. We are only here to look. The four of us walk up to the gates, and 3 of us stand there with something stuck in our throats. Decades gone, and today we came back. We step through, and the city has barely changed. The old street vendors are at their old corners, and the stall owners are the same stall owners. There are a great many new faces among them, and somehow the whole place still feels the way it felt. Inside the gate we go our separate ways. I take the small path without deciding to, and then I am standing in front of the restaurant like a man who sleepwalked there, looking at the first home I had in this world. People are going in and out. Business is as good as it ever was. I step inside and see the shopkeeper across the room, chatting with a customer. His temples have gone gray. Time got at him the way it gets at everyone who is not a cultivator, and standing there watching it, I do not interrupt. I can hear him, though. He is telling a guest that they have come to the right place, and that an immortal once came out of this very restaurant. They will certainly not be disappointed. The only reason his place has a reputation in Cloud Sky City and the country around it, he says, is that they got to bask in that man's glory. Then he says he does not know whether he will ever see him again, and reckons it is unlikely, because immortals and mortals are different. He lets out a long breath at the end of it. His face goes from bright to something else while he says it, and something in my chest turns over. I walk around and stand behind him without a word. He finishes, turns to go, and finds me standing there, and he actually rubs his eyes. I ask whether he does not recognize me. He nods hard and says he recognizes me. How could he not? He starts to announce me to the room, and I cut him off and tell him not to make a scene, because I do not want a commotion this time. He nods again and says he understands. Then he puts me in a private room and brings out every signature dish the kitchen has. I sit there eating food I used to carry to other people and feel about 19 years old. He looks me over and remarks that my appearance has barely changed. I must be in my 40s by now, he says. I only look more settled. I take out 2 bottles of medicinal pills and set them in front of him and tell him to take them, because they will lengthen his life and spare him the suffering of illness. He does not make a performance of refusing. He simply accepts them. He also understands exactly what this visit is. There is not going to be a next one, and he knows it. I can see the thought sitting on his face, so I tell him that nothing in this world is absolute, and that perhaps one day I will come back and see him again. We finish the meal laughing, which is the correct way to finish it. Then, as I am leaving, I catch him hesitating over something he has not said. I ask him what it is, and whether he is keeping something from me. He looks troubled and tells me that a few years ago he discovered, by accident, that he has a son, after a whole life with no children at all. He cherishes the boy. The trouble is that the boy has never once let go of the idea of cultivating, and when an immortal tested him, he was found to have no affinity for it whatsoever. Then he calls the boy in from outside, introduces him as his son Riang Woon, and tells him to greet me as Uncle Wu. Riang Woon says it twice, Uncle Wu, and then asks whether there is truly no way. Can a person really never cultivate without a spiritual root? I look at the hope standing in his eyes, and then I probe him properly, and it is exactly as the immortal said, no spiritual root. The road is closed at the gate. I sigh and tell him there is no way. He has no spiritual root and is destined to have no affinity with cultivation, and it is better to give the idea up early. His face goes out like a lamp. Then he pulls it back together, clenches both fists, and says he understands. I say goodbye to the shopkeeper and walk out to wait for the others. It is not strictly true that there is no way. There is a legend that great experts can construct an artificial spiritual root, though the artificial kind comes with a hard ceiling. If the legend holds, then given enough years I would have both the confidence and the time to do it, and possibly to break that ceiling as well. But that is a very distant thing, and letting the boy give it up is kinder than handing him a rumor. Sometimes giving a person hope is not a good thing at all. There is one more possibility I keep to myself. From everything I read in my old life, body cultivators ought to exist in a world shaped like this one. I have no proof. If fate allows, he and I may meet again somewhere in the cultivation world, and I have an intuition that we will. Behind me in the restaurant, Ryangwon watches me go and swears to himself that he will step onto the path of cultivation no matter what method it takes. Ye-rim and the others find me, and I ask whether they have finished their goodbyes. They have. They left medicinal pills with their families, let nobody know they had been back, and introduced Wang Ogyan to Han Seok's parents, who were delighted. The four of us step out through the city gate, and the mood goes flat all at once. We came out of this gate the first time with our chests full of the path of immortality. This time we all understand that this parting may simply be the last one. Nobody talks much on the way home. At the sect we exchange a few words and go our separate ways. Each of us to our own place. Home. All four of us. That is the part that gets me. There are people standing at my gate when I get back. They tell me I have finally arrived, and that a small secret realm has turned up near the Celestial Maiden sect. They ask whether I want to come along, since we are all at Foundation Establishment and it is convenient to travel together. These are my chess friends. We play, we drink, and over the last 10 years I have run tasks with them, and they invite me on missions constantly. I go occasionally, refusing every single time would not fit the identity I have spent 20 years building. I listen to the details and decide to go. By their account, the secret realm holds a lot that is useful at Foundation Establishment. Items suited to the Golden Core stage used to surface there and are essentially picked clean now, so the place has become the province of Foundation Establishment disciples, mostly early and middle stage. For anyone in the late stage, the pickings are thin. Late stage disciples still wander and occasionally hoping for Golden Core resources, and they almost always come out with nothing, so most of them have stopped bothering. What is left is early and middle stage disciples from various sects, plus loose cultivators. As for danger, there is very little left in this world that can threaten me. At my current proficiency, I can end anyone at my own supposed level before they finish drawing, so this is a holiday. Occasionally, a holiday is worth taking. Counting me, there are 6 of us, and the highest cultivation in the group is Wang Yang at the 5th layer of Foundation Establishment, present company accepted, obviously. A team like that will not be provoked by anyone sensible. Wang Yang leads us to the secret realm near the Celestial Maiden sect, and we do not go straight in, because information first is simply good manners. We take a table at a restaurant near the entrance, and the whole room is talking about one subject. The secret realm stays open 1 month, and it has been open 10 days. There are people scattered around who have just come out looking thoroughly beaten up, and a larger number waiting to go in. Then somebody says the thing that changes the room. A senior at the early Golden Core stage has gone in this time, and the Wei family of the Divine Wind Dynasty has actually come here. The Wei family has a core disciple inside, and the Golden Core senior is the guardian escorting him. The reason the Wei family came at all, apparently, is that the young master is pursuing a disciple of the Celestial Maiden sect. She is a personal disciple of one of their peak masters, which makes her status considerable. Fortunately, the man says that Wei family disciple has no interest in anything inside and will not be seizing resources. The whole room exhales. Wang Yang is at the 5th layer. One of us is at the 4th, one at the 3rd, and the rest of us are at the 2nd. Being this close to the Celestial Maiden sect, we also pick up the local rumor, which is uglier. Celestial Maiden sect disciples have been going missing, often enough that their own disciples are frightened. Nobody knows whether it is true. What people say is that a Golden Core elder has already been sent to look into it. Wang Yang talks it over with us. Since a Golden Core is a variable nobody in our group can survive, everyone still wants to go. If the Wei family disciple had come hunting resources, we might have turned around, and as it stands, he has not. I go along with all of it, and I keep the obvious to myself. A Golden Core cultivator is not a threat to me in any sense of the word. We step into the secret realm, and the first thing I notice is that most of the buildings are wrecked. That is what happens to any ruin resource hunters have been through for a decade. The second thing I notice is much stranger. This secret realm is half night and half day. There is a sun standing on one side of it and a moon standing on the other. A place built like that was built on purpose. Nothing about this is simple. Wang Yang confirms the practical half of it. The secret realm has a yin side and a yang side, and different spiritual plants and spirit medicines with entirely different habits grow on each. He suggests we stay together rather than split, look out for each other, and divide everything evenly when we leave. Nobody objects. We take the yin side first. There are low-grade spiritual plants and spirit medicines everywhere here. In the permanent night, they give off a faint glow and sway in the breeze, and the whole slope looks like something out of a better world than this one. I stand there letting it work on me for a moment. There is no reason to pick any of it, since low-grade anything is beneath a Foundation Establishment cultivator. I am aware that I am the only person in this group treating a secret realm as scenery. Further in, I run my divine sense across the area out of habit, and find a spirit medicine growing at the top of a tree. It is a night spirit flower, and by the look of it, there are 100 years of spiritual age in it. That makes it valuable even to someone at the late stage of foundation establishment. It is also one of the rarer ingredients for refining medicinal pills. They like the tops of trees, where they can drink the essence of the moon. Wang Yang spots it a moment later and tells everyone to look, because that is good material. And the whole group lights up. I also spot the snake demon sitting near it, which has clearly come for the same flower. Its cultivation is equivalent to the 5th layer of foundation establishment. Alone, any one of us would be in trouble. Against 6, it has simply had a bad day. One of the others notices it and warns that there is a snake demon nearby, that it has already found us, and that its cultivation is not low. Wang Yang says it is at the same level he is and that we can handle it together. He opens with a nebula palm into the place it is hiding, and the snake demon slips it. Then it launches at Wang Yang, and at the last instant it changes its mind and goes for the 2nd layer cultivators instead, which includes me. Everyone's heart goes into their throat, and Wang Yang shouts at us to be careful. The creature has some cleverness in it, going after the weakest first. Unfortunately for the snake demon, it picked the wrong weak one. I let it get close, pretend to react at exactly the last moment, and bring my longsword up to catch the strike. Then, before the others can get to me, I pretend I cannot hold it and let myself go flying backward. They shout to ask whether I am all right. I get up slowly, brush myself down, and say that I am fine and that we should deal with the snake demon first. 20 years of practice and I can eat a hit convincingly from any angle. The group pulls itself together and attacks in sequence, and the snake demon understands that her ambush has failed and tries to run. We are not giving her the chance. Li Wun swings her long whip out and coils it around the fleeing snake, then shouts at everyone to hit it fast, because she cannot hold on long. Everyone unleashes what they have, and while the others are hammering at it from the front, I quietly slip a strand of sword intent into the snake demon's body, which removes any possibility of it mutating into something worse. It goes down, and the whole group exhales. The inner core alone was worth the fight. Wang Yang extracts the core and then goes up for the night spirit flower, and we move on. We work our way deeper and take a decent haul off the inside, though nothing else comes close to the night spirit flower. Then we cross to the other side to see what it holds, and the answer is not much, because resources over here are noticeably thinner. Before long, we come up on a ruined structure, with a crowd already gathered in front of it, which usually means something is happening. Something is. There is a man standing in the middle of the crowd, holding flowers, pursuing a woman in front of an audience. That will be the Wei family disciple from the Divine Wind dynasty. I remember the Golden Core Guardian, and there's an old man standing a little way off, so I put my divine sense over him. Golden Core, and by the feel of it, he has not held it long. Against a field of foundation establishment cultivators, that distinction is meaningless. He could clear this entire clearing on his own. The young master is at the 6th level of foundation establishment. The woman is at the 5th. Wai Moonjil looks at her with everything he has in his face and calls her Yuzhong. He tells her he traveled the whole way from the Divine Wind dynasty just to see her. Then he says he truly likes her and asks whether she will be his Tao companion. The crowd starts jeering at her to agree. She refuses anyway. The two of them have never spent time together and have barely met more than a handful of times, she says, and she will not agree. Her focus right now is cultivation, and he should give it up. Wai Moonjil tells her it was love at first sight, that he will marry nobody but her in this life, that he will not give up, and that he will wait until she agrees. Bang Yuzhong does not answer him again. She turns and leaves, and the crowd loses interest and disperses. Then the old man walks over to his young master and asks why he ran all this way. He could have any woman in the dynasty, and there is no shortage of them who would like to marry into the Wei family. Wai Moonjil tells him he does not understand anything, that his heart is set, and that there is to be no more persuading. If he does not succeed here, he will not consider going back to the Wei family at all. The old man sighs and stops talking. We do not linger. We go deeper, looking for whatever this side is left. And then a voice comes down over the whole secret realm and says that the condition has been met, and that the Yin-Yang Palace is opening. The ground starts shaking and does not stop. A palace rises slowly into the sky above us, with one side of it standing in the Yang aspect and the other standing in the Yin. I look up at it and revise my opinion of this place a second time. Nothing about this secret realm is simple. Everyone stands there stunned until the quiet breaks, and then one person goes up fast toward the sky above the palace. After that, it is figure after figure lifting off the ground, sword light flashing all across the secret realm. Nobody has to say it. There has never once been any mention of a yin-yang palace in this secret realm, which means whatever is up there is a great opportunity. Wang Yang looks at us and we look back, and the want on every face makes the discussion unnecessary. We go up too. The palace up close is genuinely magnificent, and there are already hundreds of people gathered at the entrance with more arriving every minute. The main gate stands open. Nobody goes in, because nobody knows what is waiting. Then somebody's nerve breaks, exactly as it did over the longsword, and he flies in first. After that, the hesitation evaporates and the whole crowd pours through, and we go with them. Inside, there is no legacy waiting and no voice of some ancient expert booming out of the walls. There are simply rooms, a great many of them, packed with weapons and spirit pills, and a fair number standing empty. The palace descends into chaos immediately. Wang Yang does not waste breath on speeches, and just tells us to move fast, because anyone who hesitates gets nothing. The crowd surges at the rooms, and people die in the scramble, which surprises nobody. In a very short time, the palace is stripped bare. Some people are still searching, others have already run for the exits with what they took. And then a voice speaks directly inside my head and tells me that I have been selected, and asks whether I wish to enter. Around me, people are vanishing one after another. Wang Yang has gone mid-step. The ones who were chosen are shouting about it before they go, announcing to the whole palace that they knew it, that they are the chosen one, that the legacy belongs to them. Then they disappear too, and the crowd works out what is happening, and every face that was not selected falls at once. I stand there and think about it for a moment. Then I decline. I have no interest in a legacy. I have never needed one, and I am not about to walk into an unknown space in front of several hundred witnesses for something I would never use. Then a cultivation technique appears in the sky above the whole secret realm, called the yin-yang art, and it is plainly going to whoever is strong enough to take it. Everyone still standing rushes it, because a legacy hanging in open air is extraordinary by definition, and nobody is going to let it pass. People start dying over it almost immediately. Wai Munjial watches the pile grow, and tells the old man he did not expect to run into a cultivation technique legacy here. His own cultivation is the highest present, and with a golden core expert like Uncle Wai beside him, the yin-yang art is surely already theirs. The old man tells him to wait until the others have finished fighting. There is no rush. Let them go a while longer. Wang Yang watches the same scene and comes to the opposite conclusion, which is that he has no chance at all. He wants that legacy badly. He also sees the Wei family standing there, and he knows the Golden Core Guardian came inside, and he does not believe for a second that they have no interest. So he waits to see whether an opportunity opens. After a while, there are not many people left on their feet. Then a hand comes through the chest of the man holding the yin-yang art from behind, and a figure in a black robe reaches past him and takes it. He tells them all to stop fighting, that the yin-yang art belongs to him now, and that they should not waste any more of their strength. Then he lets his cultivation aura out, and it is the 9th layer of foundation establishment. The gap is wide enough that nobody moves. The whole clearing simply stands there weighing it, and not one person is willing to be first. If any disciple of the Celestial Maiden sect had been standing in that crowd, they might have recognized him. He is the man they knocked off a cliff. Nobody in that clearing moves. Wai Munjial looks at the man in black and works out that it hardly matters, because Uncle Wai is here, and between the Foundation Establishment stage and the Golden Core stage there is a world. Wang Yang reaches the same conclusion from the other direction. He is not getting into this. Whatever that opportunity was, it was never meant for him. Then Wai Munjial turns to the old man and tells him it is time. Wai Riang walks toward Gong Song without hurrying and tells the boy not to waste his energy, and to hand over the yin-yang art. Then he lets his golden core pressure off the leash, and every person in that clearing feels a boulder settle onto their shoulders. So this is the legendary Golden Core Guardian of the Wei family. It turns out he was not a rumor. Gang Song's face does not change at all. He says he did not expect to find another old fellow at Golden Core in here, and then remarks that it looks like the breakthrough was recent. Wai Riang looks at that expression and asks whether he really believes he can fight a Golden Core expert. Does he not understand the gap between Foundation Establishment and Golden Core? What exactly gives him the confidence? Gang Song tells him they will find out once they trade blows. Wai Riang calls him bold, takes a single step, and is standing behind him. The palm comes in before Gang Song is finished turning, and he barely gets his sword into part of it, and then he is crossing the clearing and going into a wall. Outside, the hall is emptied out. Most of the disciples have already run, and some have gone back to carry word to their sects. I have not left because something came into this secret realm that should not be here, and I want to see it. My companions went out to keep collecting. I am waiting for Wang Yang to come through the exit so I can tell them all to run. Inside, Gang Song tastes blood and wipes his mouth, and he is smiling when he does it. He says the Golden Core stage is genuinely different, and that he did not react in time. Wai Riang asks whether he intends to keep struggling, since it is futile either way, and tells him to hand over the yin-yang art or be finished first. Gang Song tells him not to assume it is over. Then black aura rolls up out of him and covers him entirely. The dread lands on everyone at once. People are shouting to ask what kind of monster this is, and saying the aura is sinister. Wai Riang's frown goes deep, because a thought has arrived that he does not want. Devilish chi. He cannot be certain since he has only ever heard the word. That is the whole problem. It has been so long since the war between immortals and demons that the demon race has not shown itself in the southern region for generations. Almost everyone alive has only heard about them secondhand. Wei Riang puts his contempt away. Around him, the crowd backs off and goes to guard. He asks outright what kind of cultivation technique this is, and whether the man is a demon clan member, because the aura is sinister. Gang Song asks whether an unfamiliar technique makes a man a demon clan member, and says that only shows how little the old man has seen. The black aura finishes soaking into him, and his eyes come up blood red, and its cultivation climbs past the 9th layer of foundation establishment and settles at the golden core early stage. Every face in the clearing goes grave. Wei Riang knows he is in trouble now, and he is far more certain about what he is looking at. Gang Song says that since he has reached the golden core stage as well, they can find out who is stronger. Strands of black chi come out of the sky at Wei Riang. He draws his longsword and answers with his own technique, and sword light and black shadow start trading at a speed nobody watching can follow. The buildings nearby come apart while they watch, and the crowd scatters for cover, because this is not a fight anyone can stand near. After a while, Wei Riang is still holding the advantage. Gang Song has not won the exchange, and both of them are breathing hard. Wei Riang lets out a breath, and immediately tightens up again because he does not know what a demon clan member keeps in reserve. Gang Song has done the same arithmetic and does not like it, so he stops trading. He throws out several enormous black hands, and they fly into the people at the edges. Everyone they catch is punched through, and everyone they miss runs. And the blood of the pierced ones runs back along those black shadows and pours into Gang Song, and he straightens up restored, stronger than he was a minute ago. Wei Riang understands the shape of it now, and the shape is that everyone here dies. He throws a spell into Gang Song immediately, and on the next exchange he is the one giving ground. The onlookers can all see where this ends, and they know they need to be gone, and the exit is not open yet. Wei Riang knows the rest of it too. The man recovers his spiritual power and boosts his strength by drinking blood, so a long fight is a fight Wei Riang loses. He cannot retreat either. All he can do is hold until the time runs out, and privately he does not believe he can. He takes one look at Wei Mungiel, and then he charges. Gang Song asks whether the old thing still does not understand the gap, and tells him he will send him on his way. The two of them go through the clearing, changing places over and over, and nothing they pass survives it. Then the black shadow puts Wei Riang down, and this time the blood in the air is his. Wei Mungiel runs to him and gets him up, and his voice is shaking when he asks whether Uncle Wei is alright. Wei Riang's eyes are steady. He tells the young master not to worry about him, to protect himself, and that this old man can still fight. Then he pushes him gently away and flies back in. Gang Song asks whether he is in that much of a hurry to die, and offers to grant the wish. They fight again, and Wei Riang gives ground the whole way. Then Gang Song finds the opening and tells him to go to hell, and Wei Riang sees it coming and knows he is too late. Wei Mungiel gets there first, holding a defensive spirit treasure. He takes the strike for the old man and is thrown anyway. Wei Riang is over him instantly, and Wei Mungiel gets up saying he is fine, and that the spirit treasure can block 3 attacks from the golden core stage. That settles Wei Riang's mind, briefly. Only briefly, because he knows he cannot hold either, and the time is nearly up. All that is left for him to do is cover the young master's retreat, as well as an old man can. Then Gang Song takes the blood of several more people out of the air, and the last of Wei Riang's hope goes with them. That man is going to kill everyone in this secret realm. So Wei Riang turns and looks at Wei Mungiel and tells him he watched him grow up, and that he cannot come to harm here. His road is still long and his life has only started. Let this old man see him off one last time.